We got a lot of folks in here tonight, so I tried to shut it down. I apologize. I know there's a lot of people have a lot of things to do, but I'll try to rearrange this to get everybody out here as quickly as possible. Mr. Mansfield, will you give us the invitation, please?
Yes. Let's pray. Dear Jesus, we thank you, Father, for the just all those gathered here. Thank you for our elected officials who are willing to put time and effort in to represent the citizens. And God, I just pray for your favor and your mercy and grace on us as we deliberate tonight. Just give us wisdom, give us discernment to really do what's in the best interest of the hardworking taxpayers that put us in these places. God, I just we thank you for our county. Thank you for all of our departments and those who are willing to serve. But above all, we just bless our citizens, those who are struggling, those who are trying to make ends meet, that you would be their provision and their source. And we just bless our time tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Actually, before I do that, I've got a couple of changes I'd like to make, recognizing we've got a lot of folks in here, so make this a little bit more efficient. So the first thing I'd like to do, Mr. Mayor, is you have an item on old business meeting. I'd like to move that all the way into the committee. I think we can handle that after this later. So let's do that. Let's move that to a new F. So that's one.
That is the air conditioning?
No, that's the uncollected material receivable.
Okay.
That's item, old business item. I had a request on the election commission to add, recognizing that this would not get past the general officers committee, but I would also like to add under D, the new D4, to the election, adding the election commission's request for funding for this. We've got some people here to speak to that, and we can have some questions on that, so. That would be under, well, it should be under new business, but in the interest of keeping things grouped together, I'd like to put it under appropriations request D4.
So old business D4.
Old business D4. You're right, it should go on there too, but I'm just trying to keep things grouped together. And actually, let's do this. Let's move it to D3 and do highway after. That way we have the election commission items together. So the new D1 would be drug court, D2 would be election commission, the $61,000. The new D3 would be the election commission move request, and then we have the new D4 would be highway. Does that make sense? And I believe those are all the changes I would like to make. Go ahead.
I would like to, I guess, have an item on the agenda for the Oak Grove Volunteer Fire Department. That
Would you like that new business?
Oh, we can do it. Whatever you want to put it in, new business.
Let's do new business. It would be G. So we'll put that after Mayor Bill. I'm hoping this will get us to do a little more quickly. Any other changes to the agenda? All right, without objection, I'd like to approve that agenda.
So
modified.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Recognition of the public here. I'll call by name. Thank you all for signing up. Dr. Montague, could you please come forward and state your name and your address for the record in 5 minutes.
Personal address or work address?
Personal address, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, thank you everyone. Oresty Montague, I'm the current president of Volunteer State Community College. Been in that position about 17 months. I live at 1013 Clubview Drive, Gallatin, Tennessee. My purpose here is to talk about the funding that we're working with Forward Sumner on the heavy construction equipment training. I just want to acknowledge that I think it's a great opportunity for the community college to work with that organization to help get people employed in our workforce in a very timely manner. The funds that we're requesting to be allocated to us would help fund stipends and scholarships so that individuals would have to stop working and still be able to get into a program that's going to be short-term and get them into great paying jobs. I volunteered and participated in the simulator at the campus last Friday. I did wreck it, but it was just on the simulator. That I cut out for it, but it was a great experience, and we had folks signing up that day already interested. So I urge the committee to consider this application.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Nick Bishop.
Good evening. Chairman, I live in Cheatham County, but work at Ball State, Sumner County, so is that?
Yes, sir, please state your address.
Okay, so Nick Bishop, I live at 120 Majestic Lane, Pleasant View, Tennessee, Cheatham County. I serve as a Vice President for Economic Development and Regional Centers here at Volunteer State Community College. My main office is here in Gallatin. I work all across 11 counties. Part of my duties involve overseeing our regional campuses and working with workforce development, economic development programs. So that led me to work with Ford Sumner and the Sumner County Workforce Cabinet. And so I would really encourage you guys to try to support the ARPA funding that's related to the Sumner County Workforce Cabinet. Appreciate the chairman's leadership and the mayor's leadership in diving in on the Workforce Cabinet and really trying to figure out how those monies can be best used, not just for the workforce projects, but for the whole county. So I appreciate the work that you've done on that. I'll say this and I'll shut up and leave. We're very fortunate in Tennessee to have a strong education system with resources such as Tennessee Promise, Tennessee Reconnect, that will pay for individuals to get degrees and technical certificates. We're very fortunate to have a governor that understands workforce development and is making strong investments in infrastructure for education and workforce development. But there's one piece that's missing all this, and that missing piece is funding and support for work-based learning opportunities and short-term workforce development opportunities. Tennessee Promise will pay somebody $8,000, $10,000 to get a degree in philosophy, but it will not pay $1,000 to put you through a heavy equipment operator academy. Now, which one of those do you think you're going to get more ROI on? I'll leave that up to you. So that's what this money does. That's what Ford Sumner does. That's what the Sumner County Workforce Cabinet does, is it fills that gap. It's not going to do it for the whole state, but it'll do it for Sumner County. I think it'll make Sumner County a shining model for the rest of the state. So I appreciate your time, appreciate your consideration, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kevin Relford.
Good evening, Kevin Relford. I'm Vice President of Logistics for GAP that's located here in Gallatin. My home address is 102 Secretariat in Kingstonville, Tennessee. So I appreciate you taking an opportunity to kind of hear us out. I'm also here to advocate and share how important it is for a relationship we have with Ford Sumner and work-based learning. You know, GAP's been in the community for over 27 years, and it's a large company. So we've had the ability to, over the last 6 years, to invest $120 million in our Sumner County campus, right? Largest primary employer here, and so we have resources. We can establish bilateral relationships with work-based communities, education, and not all small businesses can, right? And so I'm here that this program is about 4 years to actually help create a better pipeline to connect those resources in which we invest hard assets with the community and the soft assets, give them the schools, and for them to be able to have good paying jobs that allow them to build strong careers and support their families. And so I like Ford Sumner creates an umbrella connecting community, government, education, and private businesses in a way that they can't do individually. Now, I have time to do that, but most small business owners don't, right? And so they need the pipeline, and more so than GAP, but I think it's important enough for our community to invest, and I appreciate you supporting the offer. Better training people to have better careers going forward.
Yes, sir. Judge Yates.
I've never been here before, so I think I signed the wrong thing. I'm here with Catherine Strong and the sheriff to talk about the expenses on the death penalty case.
Okay.
And I'll just come forward with them to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
No problem, sir. I understand.
Mr. Chairman, that's under this poll.
New business, try it. So I'm taking that to mean Mr. Strong also.
Correct.
At this time. Okay. Judge Blanton?
Ron Blanton, 103 Williamshire Drive in Hendersonville. I, along with Judge Ryan McCormick, are here to talk briefly about recovery courts tonight. On tonight's agenda is the mental health board, but I also want to address this committee because you're going to be seeing several grants coming through recovery court through this committee in the next few months. This grant from the mental health court, along with these other grants, are freestanding grants. They don't cost the county a dime. These are monies that flow through, that pay for personnel and programs that we have. They do not, they stand alone. You do not match funds with them. These people in recovery court that I have currently worked in grants for over 20 years. They've been on one-year grant for 20 years. So they understand that if the grant is not approved, they don't have a job. So it's not that situation. We have a grant writer that searches for grants. If one grant's running out, they look for other grants to fulfill those grants that we have so that we can continue this operation. It does not cost the commission or the county any dollars whatsoever. It's a total pass-through. So I'm encouraging you to support this mental health amendment. It's from the governor's package. It's a flow-through. It's renewable each year, at least for the next 4 years, as long as he's the governor. It's been one of his major projects that he's committed to in the next 4 years is this mental health addition to recovery courts. But for all of our recovery courts, that's what I'm here to speak to this committee about, is you're going to see several of these over the next few months that come in that are recurring grants that are time sensitive, and they need to be moved through, and I'm encouraging you to consider that. I forwarded to you earlier this week, or perhaps the end of last week, statistical information about the Sumner County recovery courts and how successful they are. If you did not get that, I've got copies I can hand you tonight to look at that has the success rate over the last 10 years that recovery courts have meant to Sumner County.
Thank you, sir.
I think I'm next.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm Judge Brian McCormick. I live at 124 Chattanooga Court, Gallatin, Tennessee. Just to piggyback and share a little bit more that Judge Blanton did share. Last year, he and I had the privilege of going to 3 different conferences, our baby judge school, as they call it, when we first took office. We went to General Sessions Court Conference as well as Recovery Court Conference. And all 3 of those conferences highlighted at all 3 was Representative William Lambert, who had championed getting mental health court money for the entire state. I mean, essentially, Governor Lee has had a commitment to creating courts. We're one of, I want to say, 7 out of the 95 counties that currently have mental health courts, but he has encouraged all 95 counties to create a mental health court. We've got several mental health courts. How we've done it, and I really take a lot of pride in that because for Sumner, we're small when you compare to Dayton and Shelby, who've already had these courts going. So knowing that other courts want to model their court off ours has been huge. I mean, just to reiterate what Judge Blanton said, I can't imagine that Governor Lee would have them create a court that he wasn't going to support, and especially with all that it takes to create a mental health court. So for these courts that, and the money is also to enhance the 7 of us who have courts going, because ultimately he recognized that we need the assistance too. So this is money that's from surplus taxpayer money that essentially, as he said, doesn't match, doesn't require. Anybody who we talk to about this money understands that it's grant funds, and when the grant is gone, and ultimately they are just as when your term ends, your stipend ends. People understand where their financial source is. So I just urge you to support this initiative. It is definitely by our local legislator as well as our governor who has supported this initiative. Our courts work. These mental health courts work. Our recidivism rate is amazing, and I just can't speak enough about how much good these courts do and how we, as Sumner County, is a model for so many counties that want to come visit our court. So I just ask that you accept it and approve it, and let us continue to work and help make this county better. Thank you for all that you do.
Mr. Bailey.
so much to talk about in so little time. I think recovery courts are a great idea, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. I struggle getting behind this forward Sumner, Kevin Baker, 424 A.B. Wade Road, Portland, but you all know this. I struggle getting behind this forward Sumner, $590,000, mainly because of the past history. But you all know that. We all sat through the same thing. I made my points clear there. I think the issue I have right now is, I recall a year or two ago when we bought a shiny new $1 million plus emergency bus to go in and for when there's a disaster. And I could think about, well, what would happen if tomorrow, after we commit to this $590,000, some other new shiny object came along, or something really important came along that we wanted to fund? I think having a list, a comprehensive list of everything that we're going to, use ARPA funds for, and then we prioritize that, and maybe get some input from public and various departments that, what's the best use of our money? Where do we get the most bang for our buck? That's my point. I can't get behind the forward Sumner issue because you have made concessions about having a dashboard where we're going to track what's going on, but I do think we need to, take a look at everything that's on the plate. The second thing I want to talk about is that $5,700 for the libraries. We're going to be transferring $5,700 for a senior director in Portland down to a regular director down in Gallatin. And I don't have a fundamental problem with $5,700, but when you look at the thing, they talk about, look in the minutes, and the minutes are going to tell you that they approved it. Well, I looked through the minutes, and my eyes aren't what they used to be, but I can't see it. But what the minutes do show is, this is right from the minutes, and it's not in your package, okay? So I don't know how you all are going to know what the minutes say to approve anything, but the thing that piqued my interest was, Diane asked the directors about the criteria for the senior director level. This is their words in their minutes. No clear answer was given. So how can we support creating a senior level person down in Gallatin when we don't have anything defined, what's expected? I do applaud that we're going back to the old way of how the libraries were all locally run. I think that's a great move. But it starts you asking questions. What the heck's going on? When they don't have criteria for creating a senior level position, but they're going to give somebody a raise for that role. I was in this industry a long time, and if I ever went to my boss and said, I want to give somebody a raise, but I don't really have a job description for me, he'd say, get out of here. He would have thrown me out on my ear. The third item I wanted to talk to are the CPR machines. And again, this is, we're going to spend a couple $100,000 on new CPR, manual, automatic CPR machines. I think it's a great idea. We need to do that. But what I started looking into the details, we have 0 regular-sized, adult-sized straps as of the last meeting. And we have 3 large straps. How did we get to that point? I go to all these meetings, you know that. I looked through the minutes. I saw nothing. I even talked to the chairman of that committee. There was no discussion. It was never brought up. How do we get ourselves into these positions where we need to spend $290,000, I think it is, on automated CPR machines? And we don't have any straps for the ones we got, so guess what? I don't know how many of you all are regular-sized people, but we have no straps for you. So if you have a heart attack, good luck. Although I am certified in CPR, and I have performed. In fact, I performed CPR on my father, believe it or not. Anyhow, the final last thing I wanted to talk about is the election machines. It kind of disturbed me when I saw an article in Tennessee Lookout about a pending lawsuit for election machines, and then I look at there's a transfer, you want to transfer $61,000 from one account to another account for the elections department, and it said this: as stated in the multitude of correspondences, due to the previous COCOM, I'm sure that's County Commission, cutting in half the original budget. So
The previous county commission voted to cut the budget in half. I don't recall ever hearing about a lawsuit potentially being filed. This is just crazy to me, that we have elections people, and I know someone maybe in this room, supporting the machines, but we're worried about having a secure location. Is the microvote factory secure where they're produced? Is it blanketed in a Faraday cage so that there's no communications with the outside world, as they claim? How about the trucks? Do they ship them in armored personnel carriers or armored cars so that nobody could get to them? That they're worried about having so when they get here, they're not really certified machines until we tell them that they're certified. So we put them in this room, they can be hacked just as well as they can be hacked back in the 2020 elections, right? We all know about that. If you don't believe that, well, but I have a problem with, them threatening the county. And where are they going to get the money to sue us when they don't have it in their budget to do that? I mean, but they're transferring money around. Can't they come in here and have a conversation? I sat through the last meeting where they wanted to force to move down there to the other building. That's just ridiculous. But anyhow, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. Mr. John Day.
Yep. Hey, everybody. My name is John Day. I live at 212 The Hollows Court in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm a vice president with Starbucks Coffee Corporation. I have been working over the last year with elected alderman who's no longer in office, Brian Stewart, to secure a grant to help us remediate some stormwater issues that have been occurring in the Hollows Court neighborhood. I'm joined tonight with several other members of my community as we've all been imploring with the county for years at this point to remediate these stormwater issues caused by upstream development at the Somerset Downs. I personally, over the last 4 years, I've lived in the community for 4 years now, have spent over $20,000 of my own money to repair damage and or preventative maintenance from stormwater intrusion into my own personal property, as many of my other neighbors are here to attest to their own grievances. But I am just here to implore that the money that has been secured in this grant is used for the remediation of these stormwater issues in our community.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dale Lethbridge.
Dale Lethbridge, live at 201 The Hollows Court, Hendersonville. And this has been going on for a long time, guys, this water remediation thing we're talking about. And Josh, I know you kind of have the beating post for us for a while as we begged for help. John and some of the other neighbors here are upstream. They're on the north end of the street where the rivers start. And it's, we're kind of in a little valley on both sides of the street, down the center of the bottom of it. So these guys are up on the upper end, they're dealing with all of the forceful, I call them rivers, that are created every time there's a flood. I'm down about the middle, almost at the tail end at the lowest elevation. My property is quite honestly the holding pond for about 500 acres. Every bit of that water comes down. I've got pictures that will show my entire property underwater anywhere from 6 inches to 4 or 5 feet out where the creek is in the front yard. Some of you folks probably got emails from me this week. I don't know exactly which ones of you. I've got videos. I've been there 25 years. First 15 years, we might have a high water issue with an extreme flood. For the last 10, since all the development has started, it just gotten worse and worse. And we're to a point now where about 2 to 3 times a year is what I think I said in the email. It rises up. If you come look at my front yard, it's pretty pathetic looking, but I've hesitated trying to correct it until we get this fixed. Because I put out mulch, I put out landscaping, all the way up to the house, and the mailbox gets washed away the next time one happens, which is usually 2 or 3 months down the road. I've got a bridge I'm getting ready to have to replace because it's getting ready to wash it completely out. I don't mind spending my money to fix my property. I just like to know that we're going to get this remediation done so I don't spend the money and then it all washes over here real late. I'm begging that we're never going to have another opportunity with this ARPA money where it don't come right out of the county budget. Please push this to the commission for approval. I can talk all day about it. I've seen people kids trying to get into the flow of the thing to play on their ATVs and bicycles nearly get washed away. It's a safety hazard. We have sewage that rolls to the top. It's just a mess. I mean, it is really a mess. And I would welcome any of you to come out there for our property, and look at it. I've got, like I said, dozens of videos of all these different events. And really just appreciate the work you and your bunch has done to try to push us to this point, but it's up to you guys to get this to the next level, and really appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. That's the Hollis.
Under my report,
A2. Okay, that concludes our public, recognition of the public. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm sorry, there's one correction on it, nothing major, but there's a Tina Tobin that spoke last month, and it says Turbin on the minutes. Should be Tobin, it should be Tobin, T-O.
Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to nitpick, but I know you brought up.
Can you tell me how to spell that?
T-O-B-I-N.
Okay, I'll fix it.
Okay.
So move with the correction. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. I'm gonna have my report here, and this is relevant to a lot that's on here. It's not, I don't have it listed, but I think this is my report, and I can just do what I want. So, here's my thoughts on the ARPA request, and I believe that, Mr. Baker had a very astute point. We've had a lot of ARPA requests come in a lot of different directions, we've changed things back and forth. I would really like, to see, and I think this would probably be a vote, but it's going to direct it out. What I'd really like to see is to give the department heads and anybody else 30 days to put forward any requests that they have so that we can get a comprehensive list and prioritize apples to apples as best we can in a fair and unbiased way. Not a lot of times, because I understand the concerns of folks who really want to see some mitigation happen and get some decisions here. But I also, the point of Mr. Baker earlier, that, make sure that we get everything in all at once. So I would like to see that, and it would allow us to defer most of the ARPA items. There are two of them because they are on second reading that I do think deserve a vote. And that is the forward Sumner items, there's a second reading for them. And it would be the highway items, would be a second reading there, but I understand from the highway superintendent that he would actually like to defer this. So really, I think we're talking about all of them. I would like to entertain a motion to see all these put into one.
Just, when I had the intent of adding a road was to put that in a bucket of considering that with ARPA funds and not from our debt service paying allocation. So I just want to make sure that got included.
Yes,
with
it
that.
would be.
Okay.
Anything here minus.
So that was my intent of adding it, just, it was for that specific item, since you're going to group it, I just want to make sure that it's included as just looking at it. Also, would it be okay to just get citizens for the Hollis Corp, which actually own this, have a show of hands of what citizens are here specifically about?
Sure, we can do that, Mr. Russo.
Thank you. Anybody here for the hollows, raise your hand.
That's a pretty good.
There's more out in the hall, and there's
Okay.
several senior citizens that
Got it.
didn't make it,
Do you wanna-
just so you know.
Got it.
Just didn't talk on my report, but do you want to let Josh talk about that in my report? He's here on the schedule today.
On there, but we can let that, still let the discussion happen. I just want to say, there's not a motion out there, I want to.
I'll move.
Okay.
I'll second.
The motion would be a directive to all department heads, and to the public, we can make a public statement, to direct any request for ARPA funds to the county water round. And we would do those in the next, I think it goes to you.
Get to the final treasure.
Oh, sorry, I said water round.
Could we, since we're relatively close to the budget, cycle, can we just give them until, are you talking about including in the budget cycle, or just?
I'd like to have them all in there ahead of the budget cycle.
So it'd be March 1 if we did that anyway, so it'd be pretty close. It'd actually be less than, if somebody's gonna request in this budget cycle, it'd have to be March 1, so you're actually giving them a little longer to request.
I'd rather do it with the budget cycle. I'd rather say March 1.
Well, that's 2 weeks.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll adjust my, to, say March 1 for the budget cycle.
Good with that, then. All right. Any other,
The only problem is getting dollars attached to that. You know, trying to get estimates. That's the only issue I see. I mean, we can get projects together, and we've been working on that already, to get things ready in the capital needs that could possibly go into the ARPA funds.
I mean, as long as we have the item on there, that's fine. Just get the project on there.
No problem.
As soon as we get the projects, we'll go ahead and send them to the consultant to evaluate if that to be general ARPA or revenue replacement.
Yeah.
I've got a list already working with departments.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Just a clarification, so we're doing the Forward Sumner, the Halls Court,
We're gonna listen to Hollis Court, we're gonna hear that one today. And then,
we're just gonna put all those into that.
we're gonna put them all into the bucket with the exception of the Ford Sumner one, and it's on second reading. We're gonna do highway, but I've heard from Mr. Ellis, that he wants to first, so that would be basically that thing. Three, so there's two, really, so we do the Ford Sumner, on second reading, and then hear from, the Hollis Court, but that would go into the bucket.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just say, is the Halls is already budgeted, right?
Right, it's already budgeted, but nobody's ever approved which way it's gonna go, or if it's gonna go, or there's several of them like.
Wait, so it's already in the budget?
Yes.
There's several of these, with ARPA things already appropriated, just never been approved to move forward. We're trying to put in the budget cycle, but never really discussed.
I still, yeah, I still feel like that one needs to go, just because it's the first time that we're seeing it here. Whereas the other two, we counted those. And I'm not, I understand there's a good reason for it. But we're talking 2 weeks.
Was this, since it was in the budget, was this done last commission? It was done with the 2023 fiscal year budget, part of the original budget. There were several projects added in the original budget that haven't really been discussed or fully formed. That's why when I received the email from Josh and it's on the actual presentation not to discuss the whole course, I thought it was probably the best time to go and discuss it, just to move forward.
And I'd like to, when y'all get ready, just let me know. I've got a little bit of nuance I'm asking for, but just to clarify, I guess for everybody understanding, make sure I'm understanding, we're asking to have basically a master list.
That's correct.
Here's the master bottom line that we have this enough and no more, no less. Here's all they ask, and we're gonna prioritize.
That's right.
And we want everybody to see.
That's right.
Instead of all this disparate pieces that we have no idea what
That's
these
right.
are. Just not chipping away a little bit of time, we're gonna do,
One bucket.
I love that, thank you.
Yeah, I love the idea as well. Besides the highway on here, what else we move to make this CPR devices?
Oh, well, you mean would be moving into that bucket?
Correct.
It would be the Hollis Court, highway, the CPR devices, Oak Grove, the one that you added, that might be it. And there are other items as well that aren't on here yet, but they would go in the bucket as well, all the maintenance. What we're gonna maintenance, so I know you're still looking at all.
If you're gonna give them March 1 to request and prioritize, you might wanna think about giving a deadline where they can come back with some estimates to it. You'll be into your actual budget cycle in May.
Well, yeah, we could do that. So we could do March 1, well, it's your amendment, but, or excuse me, your motion.
You're asking for what? You're just like a...
Well, I'd say to give them to March 1 to come back and the request that you made, when it, for instance, give them April 15th to come back with dollars, because you have a May budget hearing, you still have the same issue.
I will amend my motion to include finance director's suggestion.
All right.
Got a second?
Any other discussion here?
I've got a question, I guess, really around the Hollows Court or really any of the ones that are, we've need that, because we do bake it into the budget cycle, which goes into May, and it'll get approved in June, hopefully. And, you know, is there any requests that are maybe more emergent that we should go ahead and consider before that? Like if, you know, the Hollows Court, if it's,
if we're talking,
I got that on the March agenda.
yeah.
So I'll say whatever hours, if they get it in May, March 1, we'll put it on the March agenda with your overtime. And then also, all the courts already got the cost of this.
Yeah.
I think, well,
We'll try to get you a list as good as we can, not know it all. We're moving into a rainy season. This is when all the rain usually comes. March, April, even comes in. I mean, this is something that possibly needs to be moved ahead. I don't see that
If y'all want me to, it will be all right, we're talking about
we're
that.
gonna get there in a minute anyway. I mean, look, we wanna talk about this when we can.
I'd like to leave Hollows
Okay.
Court at least for consideration and move the other ones.
Let me talk about So here, the motion is just for the grouping anyway. Doesn't mean we can't discuss the items that are on here. It's just a choice to defer when we get there. So there's nothing that's stopping us. When I get something out of it.
When I go to my report, I'll go with the ARPA
Okay.
And then I have item 2 under the ARPA actual, or item 1, the whole.
Any further discussion? Are you good with that? Good. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Mr. Isbell?
Do we want to bump this down?
No, we had bumped, the air conditioners we left, it was the tax analysis, the tax assessment. That's what we bumped down to five.
Okay. Pass these out. All right, so I have been working with Comfort Air, who we have contracted with for the maintenance on these. And we are they still got a couple of sites to get to me, but as of 3 o'clock today, this is what I've got. You can look at these and see those that are in gray are ones that need attention. Everything else is okay. What they did for me in red, put the size of each unit, and we were able to estimate the cost. We can start at the top, Sumner County Administration Building, that chiller that we've been talking about. The estimate on that is $278,000. And I'm not going to go through each one of these, y'all can read them. But at the end of the day, I don't want to say, I hesitate to use the word immediate, because we can stage this. These are all the R22, these are the ones that will have to be phased out. But you're looking at a total of $877,000, assuming the rest of them that come in are not R22 systems. And the lead time on them, they told me that they're increasing every 2 weeks, has not seen a decrease in 2 years. We're looking at around a 32-week lead time on the units. So if we wait till they go out, then we're looking at 32 weeks. He has said that seems to be lightening a little bit, because if y'all remember before, the estimate on the chiller was a little over a year, so that's come down a little bit, so that's good news. That's where we are with the air units. Now what we are doing next, once they finish up that list, getting the rest of them identified with the year, make, and all that, we're going to go into to prioritizing the units, so that we have a list 1 through 37, and hit those in that order. So we're working on that, but this will be, I think, I think this is a good ARPA project, so I think I was going to include it on that. We do have, I will tell you, we've got capital funds to cover some of this, some of the more immediate ones. We can use some funds that are allocated for this project, or that can be allocated for this project. So, that's my report.
Can you get them to put up here which have roll compressors and which have reciprocating compressors? Sure. That can go a long way in figuring out how long these things are gonna last.
Roll compressors?
And reciprocating compressors. I mean, every one of them, they've got, it's either bad or fair. And knowing what kind of compressors are there will let us know whether or not these things are on their last legs or not. A scroll compressor, yes, it's probably on its last leg. Reciprocating, maybe not.
And Mr. Chairman, I asked last week and during the week if we could take a look at the service records, because the numbers of time that the units have been recharged also determines how tired they are. If you have to recharge a unit every 6 months, that's a problem. If it's every 3 years, it's not so much. So
That makes sense.
that will help us
There's a
prioritize.
leak somewhere.
Yeah, that's something that we are working on.
If this goes into the ARPA file, those additional reports.
Thank you.
How much is in our capital projects fund that could be allocated?
We've got about 110,000 already allocated for area units
For this budget cycle?
for this budget cycle. We've got 2.8 million in capital projects. Now, we don't wanna spend all that right now, because emergencies come up, but
The idea would be to state, I mean, what I have here, there's two options. One is to move to what's called the ARPA file, the other is to stage over time.
and we could go either route with capital projects. I can include it either way.
All right, I don't know that we need, is there any other notes here? Okay. Any other notes, please report? Mr. Vaughn?
On page 21 is the ARPA report that was requested last committee meeting, and I emailed it to the committee back on the 12th, and I can go through what some of these numbers mean real quickly. You notice there's like 4 columns there. There's amount 1, 2, total, and then portion that's allocated revenue replacement. The $10 million is the revenue replacement that has the least restriction. The other $27 million, which is on the left, has the most restrictions. That's why we were talking about allocating, or the committee was talking about allocating the ARPA funds. It's very important that we get them, when we prioritize, determine which ones can be used out of the general revenue. If you look at amount 1 over here on that deposit, an amount that's $18.5 some odd million. That is actually what was spent in 2022 and estimated to be spent in 2023 for the COVID-19 settlement. The second larger amount to the 18.5 is what we'd estimate if you continued with the current path of the downward, decreasing percentages for the COVID-19 through December 31st, 2024. In other words, the next fiscal year and half of the next, if you continue that path. And then the rest of them down through there is the bandwidth, I said 18.7, 5.7 and 4.6, 18.5 total deposit.
So here's one note on this. This is super helpful. This kind of starts to get us to what we're asking for here. What we're missing here is, I think this is as we're moving forward, is kind of almost like a project management status on where these are, right? Right now, they're all bucketed into one. We've got the hollows drainage that's bucketed right up here in the broadband. I believe broadband, I think, I know it's already been.
There was a discussion with, I think, CMC about a year and a half ago, but I don't know I don't think they went any further back, I don't think they came back.
Yeah, so, and I don't know, I don't mean to be railing, but that's what, I think as we're building, Mansfield's book here, to separate out what's been, actually in progress already. And, not just from like an expenditure point of view, but like, is it getting done? I mean, if these things have a ticking clock on them.
Right, and I can tell you which ones have been appropriated too.
Sure.
Like the 5.7398 here, that's been appropriated and or spent on the supplement. 4.6 is the money two has not been. The broadband's been appropriated. The water lines, there's $2 million amounts. There was to be $5 million each year. Last year wasn't spent, so there's $10 million in this year appropriated already. The consultants had the whole $973,480 appropriated, but we don't think we're gonna need the second $500,000 unless we get a lot more complicated projects. Down through the health department, the $100,000's been appropriated. EMS 3.5 is appropriated, 3.4 is appropriated. The 650 is not appropriated, only part of it's appropriated, that's the one being discussed tonight. The highway projects, the whole $1,376,000 has been appropriated. The AEDs have been appropriated and actually ordered. The asphalt has been paid, and the hauling and drainage improvement project has been appropriated and on here for discussion tonight. If you go down to the very bottom, because I know several of the larger construction items has been to gen ops and back to budget, and they're currently to be discussed. The health department, there's a purchase order for $93,875, $46,937.50, it's already been spent. The EMS facility, you have a purchase order for engineering or architects, $227,150, $113,575 is spent. $182,325 spent. So far, the main one expense, expense of 5.7 for your supplements, the amount for architecturals, the 40,000 for Ashley's Place, and the 77,216. And maybe some, here and there, a little work on the water lines, I believe we're looking for some money out of that.
The $3.4 million on the maintenance, what is that?
That's the maintenance facility that's been discussed in gen ops for the, right now, what's been spent on it is there's a $221,000 PO for, I guess, design and the architectural engineering, $182,325 that's been spent. That's the one that was back in gen ops, and I think now it's going to be discussed in budget. Or is it going to be pulled? I'm not sure where it's at.
Yeah, go ahead. We're in redesign, because if maintenance moves over to the TRC building, then theoretically, they would only need half of the building that was designed. But I'm working with EMS, and it's stalled a little bit because of some other things that have been more urgent, but we're gonna get back to it for what the real purpose of that building is, and can we reposition things in the EMS building that would allow bays to be worked on in the existing area and parking ambulances and other vehicles in an actual parking structure.
So it hasn't been canceled?
It hasn't been canceled and it hasn't been pushed forward. The only thing we have done, I believe...
I must have misread something, because I think I saw something where it had been canceled and we were like saving some money or something, but that's not the case.
Not the case.
There's an EMS and there's an EMS for 3.5 and a maintenance for 3.4.
Right.
So the maintenance hasn't been canceled either one.
No, I mean, as far as, are there going to be projects? Yes. Have no idea what the costs will be at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the maintenance facility was a $4.4 million ask a month ago, it's down to basically a $100,000 ask. In my mind, it's canceled. I mean, it's pulled off the agendas and gone through the budget cycle, but I mean, you're saving.
Well, I mean, it's just,
Well, when I saw it here, that's what was confusing me, was if it's been canceled, I didn't remember a vote, and it's still sitting there.
it's still sitting there, but it's
Not
subject to the $3.4 million considerable redesign.
I think, Mr. Chairman, when I was speaking to David Walling about it, I think we have, of the $37 million correct me if I'm wrong, David, I think we have at most $8 billion left. And at the very least we would have left is about 800,000.
Well, you've got the estimate amount at 4.3, and then if you take some of the EMS and maintenance and add it.
Well, the totals over here is the $1,059,000. The sub here just shows out of this total how much is toward the team. So it's not, it's bad. It's a little confusing, but that's where we're trying to show, because out of your 17 can be less restricted if you decide to do something.
So worst case, we have $1,059,000 left.
Yes.
Best case, we have about eight.
And I think the $1,059,000 is low, because of the consultants, I don't think you're going to have $73,000. Unless you as a committee or commission decide to do something much more complex than what you have. And I didn't remove the 3.4, even if it's been discussed, because we're still in appropriation.
I totally understand.
That's the end of the report for that, but right under it is item number 1, and that is the Hollow Courts.
Okay, do you have a report here regarding the suspend rules?
But can Josh go under my report?
Yes,
That'd be fine.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. I'm afraid I didn't bring enough of these for everybody. I've got
Is it the same one you emailed, Josh?
there's a little bit more information right now.
Before we look at this, I do have a question for you on these passing out. This $750,000, if we were to vote on this tonight, that, with the worst case scenario, 1.05, that's assuming that will be appropriate.
That's already been approved.
Yeah, already done.
It's already been reviewed full.
Just check.
If whoever is going to move forward tonight, it's already been appropriated. I think there's just not a clear path that who pulls the trigger on.
Mr. Chairman, like I said, I really appreciate y'all giving me the opportunity to look at the project I've been working on. Sorry. I've been with the county for about 5 years now. I've been working on this project in one way or another, as opposed to all over the day, so pretty much the day I walked through the door. This project's always been very important to me in my office. I'm on vacation today, and I came in because I wanted to be able to speak to you guys about this. If you guys can look at the figure sheets here, Somerset down, here, there's a front and back sheet, I think you see it.
Speak up a little bit.
Yes. So, what we did a couple of years ago, this is pretty old, we had Reagan Smith, there's a development adjacent to the Hollows Court, which is a subdivision that was built in the early 90s. It was approved by the Planning Commission in like 1988, 1989, it was built in the 90s. It experienced drainage problems, I think the neighbors would agree with me, to some extent from the time it was built. It was built in a way that you just couldn't do today. There's a creek running through the middle of it, essentially, that where the road is, basically. It's a designated creek by a stream per T-deck. Those rules didn't exist in 1988, 1989, 1990 when this development was approved. And so it had drainage issues. It's in a hollow, as the name implies. Over the years, you had a lot of development pressure, as you all may know, along the Pike Corridor. Somerset Downs came in back behind this development. It caused a good bit of issues. There was a lot of infrastructure that didn't get put in properly. There was nobody in the county back then, no county engineer, no staff here existed to make sure developers did what they were supposed to do. And so they did. That's what happened. We don't have the staff to make sure that it's gonna happen. And so since I've been here, my tenure here, I've worked with the developer. We've taken enforcement actions through our stormwater resolution, zoning code, to compel the developer to make a lot of fixes upstream. That I think has helped the situation in the hollow. But within the neighborhood, there are drainage issues that are there and that were there when it was built back in the day. And those folks are long gone now that do the development. And the problems remain, which is what happens sometimes. And so, a couple of years ago, we had an engineer kind of provide us just a very, very rudimentary sketch here. There's
problems on one side and proposed solutions on the other. Now, this is not a fully engineered kind of a thing, but this is just a high-level guesstimate from the engineer about, you know, the notation on where the issues are, that's very accurate. Mr. Klein and I went out there last week, he asked for me to go out and take him out there and show him some of the code points in the neighborhood. We took a look at some of those. Those are very accurate. Back on the backside here, the solutions are tentative, but they're pretty good. They're pretty good. What we would have to do is to really get into some actual engineering work and do some design on this. And so my ask for you all, there's another exhibit that we included here that shows some pictures of the flooding that the neighbors are talking about. It's a very real issue, been going on for many, many years. Got really bad a few years ago. I think it's a little better today. But we want to polish this project off, basically, and get in there and make some of these fixes where within the neighborhood, that creek that I was talking about, it's been kind of choked off over the years. People have put culverts in their yard that are too small. They've installed some manholes and that kind of thing in their yards that have impeded the drainage flow over the years. A lot of those people are dead. That's how long ago it was, so there's nobody to really hold accountable that actually did it. Some of these people have bought properties that have drainage issues existing. And so our ask for this evening, I know this body, and me, my previous experience, I'm not used to being given a blank check and say, hey, here's $750,000, go fix it. That's not the way that we operate. That's not how we would ask to operate. So my ask for you all this evening, with the solutions page that I had, there's a cost estimate that Marshall, our county engineer, who's with us today, Marshall Boyd, put together a little cost estimate. This is rough, very rough, based on the proposed solutions that are shown on that sheet. One of the costs that's estimated in there is estimated engineering costs, $85,000 for a project this size. It estimates that it's $680,000. We have $750,000 in the budget. You run into utility relocation, that kind of thing, in an inflationary environment we're in, you're probably going to need all that money, frankly. But what we would like to have today, our ask, is to access $85,000 of those $750,000 funds. And I've got a 1 through 6 kind of step-by-step here. What we would like to do, get you all permission. These funds have been budgeted already. David, am I wrong about that? They're available, correct? So we'd like to be able to access $85,000 for survey work, preliminary engineering work to get in there and look at the scope of this problem and start working on construction plans and that kind of thing. We'll go through the design process with the consultant that we end up selecting to do the work. It'll need to be a professional engineering firm that will help us put together construction plans. What we'll do then, Mr. Chairman, if it's all right, what I'd like to do is, once we kind of come up with a solution, and here's what we want to do, we know how much money we have, hopefully we can get it all fit within the scope of the money that we have. We'd like to bring it back to you guys and say, hey, here's the fix. Maybe have that engineer that we've retained talk to you about what we've designed, what it's actually going to look like. Are these going to be great big old ditches in everybody's yards? We're going to be able to pipe a lot of this stuff. Those are some questions that we'll have to get into the engineering to really know. So we need some money up front to kind of figure some of that stuff out. Then we'll get your input, we're going to have to get the neighborhood's input as well. And once we get a consensus that you guys are ready for us to roll on the rest of this project, turn us loose with the rest of that money, if that's okay. And then once that design is finalized, we have the money available. That's when we would need the cooperation of the neighbors. That's where it's going to be a two-way street. We're going to have to get drainage easements from the neighbors in order to do this work, to be able to take culverts out and take some of these manholes out of people's yards and fix all this stuff that doesn't work properly. We'll have to get construction easements and drainage easements, and those are all going to have to be done. I've talked for years about that with the neighbors. We're not going to buy construction easements. We're not going to buy drainage easements. We're certainly not going to condemn drainage easements or anything like that. So if somebody doesn't want to donate, the project dies, essentially.
Yes, can I ask a question, Josh? In your $680,000, all of that, the easements, the manholes, all of that is included?
Yes, sir. No, we don't budget any money for easements, and this comes from my time working in Shelby County. When we would do a drainage project in a neighborhood to help fix the drainage issue, if everybody's not willing to donate easements, if somebody wants us to buy it, we're not going to do the project.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think it needs to be that simple.
Well, the fact that they're here indicates they're with us.
I think we'll have a lot of,
Chairman, how much if we do this $85,000?
Amend that we waive the second reading on the $85,000.
I'm in agreement with that.
I'll second.
All right.
I think it's a good question. Motivation.
That's the money that contractor charges to mobilize on the job.
Bring all the equipment.
Contingency is just a variation of what prices are.
Contingency, you're gonna have some of that, because, I mean, we'll be able to find out a lot more when we get in there and do the survey work and the line locating, that kind of thing, figure out where all the utilities are. But if you gotta get in there and move utilities unexpectedly, that can get real costly real quick. So you need to have a little buffer.
So,
Chairman, may I ask a question? Just out of curiosity, can you give us a rough timeline? Say we start this today, it's got to get approved next week before you start, or 2 weeks. Roughly, how long will that take before the neighborhood sees relief?
I mean, the negotiations, there's a wild card in there, that kind of thing. I mean, I would like to think that we could, have an engineering firm retained, construction plans in hand, maybe in the next few months. Is that reasonable? Come back to you guys here in the next few months. The money's available, so we don't have to wait on that. And then bid it out, which, might take a month or so to get it bid out. And then you got to look for, depending on where we fall, that sounds like that might fall at a pretty good time to do construction. So hopefully we'll be able to get into construction, middle of, late this year, maybe this fall. Is that too optimistic, do you think?
when would it be complete? Because ARPA funds have to be done.
It should go pretty quick. This is not a huge project. And part of what we're going to be working with the consultant on when they're looking at the design on this is the scope. How far up are we going? How far down are we going? Where's the real problems we need to focus on? Maybe the fix is smaller than what we think it is. That's possible. And so that's what we're going to learn during the design.
I have one more question here, and it's broader.
Yes.
It's your project, but you were missed if I didn't say that, and I don't want to make anybody really mad, but it's okay. About the budget and everything that kind of being with I assume you noted that most people who live here were not, they weren't there when the scenario, when the flooding started. So
I wouldn't say that. I would say that from the time that folks started living in this neighborhood, when this neighborhood was developed, it had drainage issues.
Well, that's my point. That's my point. And I worry about the precedent that's set. There's drainage issues all over the county. And the thing that I worry about is that and I had one in a previous house, I keep it as a rental now, and I put about $10,000, $12,000 worth of improvements to it to fix the drainage, and it's not fully fixed either. I mean, I still need to do enough, but and I worry when I bought that house. I knew that it was there. I think it was worse than I thought it was, but
and I will say, you were here, just hang on. So one thing I will say is that government cannot, and I think they would correct me if I get a little wrong, we can't spend money on a private purpose, right? This issue is a public safety issue. The reason I'm involved in this project is because the road floods. Every time it rains, basically, when you get a good rain, the road floods. That's not satisfactory. Right, now when I've got two neighbors, and Marshall and I deal with this every single day. When we've got two neighbors that are fighting about somebody's installing a fence, and now they get water in their yard that doesn't flow properly, that's a civil issue. We're not going to get involved in that. But when you have, when you have a systematic drainage issue that crosses the road, that backs up water in the road, something's got to be done to fix it.
County can't work on private property.
Mr. Mansfield.
Two things, one other question. So for the engineering fee, the $85,000, I guess what is that with, Marshall coordinating them is more than the scope of what our engineers can do, or I'm just curious of why, we have a full-time engineer, so just help me understand it.
It's probably a little more than what we can do in-house, and I'll defer to Marshall on that, but yes, it probably is.
So are you getting an outside firm, or something to help out do that, do the work, carry the load?
Have a third party. There's some liability, I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but there's some liability things that are there as well, where we have somebody else to stamp on it, that designed the project, or something kind of road needs to be.
I spoke with Josh about this on Friday when I told him the agenda. I mean, this is one of those things, I understand your concerns, Mr. Chairman, and it's a lot of money, but it's one of those things, it's the right thing to do, in my opinion, because it makes the citizens whole from something that you hate to see it rezoning and irresponsible development that happened 26 years ago, 27 years ago, was built, I think, the neighborhood.
It was 1986 and 70 by the Washington.
When's the Hollywood, so, it's been a long time, but the point is, it's like, it's problem is obviously been exacerbated by more development, i.e. the Somerset Downs, when Josh came in and kind of took a beat a little bit unfairly, on this project, on that, in the news, and worked with them to, I think, mitigate as much damage as you can from the Somerset downside, correct?
Yes, sir. We look on there, some of the detention ponds that you see didn't exist or didn't accept any water at all, say 3 years ago, and now they do. Now, the big pond you see there, that phase 4, phase 5 pond, takes many hundreds of thousands of gallons of water that would have previously gone through the neighborhood. So we've mitigated issues on the developer side to the extent that we can. We've required them to do everything on their side. We can't make the developer go somewhere else off-site and necessarily do work as easily. This is a textbook public project. If this is in a city, I told Mr. Mansfield this, and county government just works differently, but if this was in the city, if this was in the town of Collierville or the city of Hendersonville, they'd fixed it a long time ago. And counties just usually don't do that.
If it's not an appropriation, you're going to potentially tell Josh to move forward or not. Two things that we can, one is, right before Josh does, he'll work with that as long as get sign on for the documented all the way to use it in general. Then the other, since we've got Eric and his, and just as Josh pointed out, we're not allowed to work on private property, but this is not working on private property, that they actually get with Josh and document that way that's in every place for Josh or me or Eric or anybody.
Just a quick question. Is there a statute of limitations on going back to the developer on that? I understand you said the individuals that worked on it are no longer there, but the company, they still exist.
I'm not sure. I don't know who.
Is that a question worth asking to see if the developer would be responsible to finish the job that they started?
I wouldn't, and I'm not a lawyer, but we can't, when I say we, the county, I don't know that we can sue a developer on behalf of private property.
Real quick, you know, I know this area pretty well. I've inspected homes for 26 years, and a lot of these have crawl spaces, and what I worry for these homeowners is if this water's obviously getting in the crawl spaces. So not only do you have the safety issue, what the gentleman was saying about kids riding bicycles and ATVs, now you potentially have water and electricity and utilities mixed in. I'm going to go ahead and I'm voting yes for this as a homeowner. That worries me, and I know it's not going to be fixed overnight, but...
Quick note on order here, just for everybody. Once the public comments are up, if you're a citizen, generally, we don't let you speak the second time. There's no offense to anybody, it's just that it's trying to move this along, so.
A couple of questions, Mr. Chairman. I did spend about an hour and a half out there with Josh, and it's a mess. It's a good mess. And there are obvious things that we have to take care of, like the culvert under the street. That corrugated metal pipe is rusted and starting to suck earth into it. And Josh and Marshall have required a lot of amendments to the project above, especially in phase 7. Josh, if I can ask Josh a question? Sure. Josh, with the remedies that you've come up with, are you confident at this point that the exacerbation of the downstream that existed before has been controlled?
Well, we've mitigated it to the extent that I think we feasibly can. It's going to be an ongoing maintenance issue. As you saw, the ponds, you got to keep the silt, everything's got to get fully stabilized. We had a drought last year, a lot of grass died and that kind of stuff. We'll work with HOA, a lot of it has become HOA property at this point. We'll work with HOA to make sure that happens, to make sure that the drains are working like they're supposed to and that kind of thing.
Okay, well, and as you and I spoke, we talked about after the culvert that it becomes an open trench that's very attractive.
Right.
Do you think there are potential problems downstream because of the remedies that we're taking upstream?
That's definitely one of the things that the engineer that's going to design this for us, they're going to need to look at downstream impacts as well, just to make sure there's not, the last thing you want to do is fix the problem and create a problem.
Correct.
And so we'll be looking downstream, and I can't think of the name of the subdivision across Long Hollow Point there.
Long Hollow Point.
Long Hollow Point, yes, sir, thank you. And so this creek continues on its merry way through that neighborhood as well. They've never reported many drainage issues, but it will definitely be worth a look to make sure that it's not going to cause an issue.
One more question for Mr. Sutter. Has the county ever done anything like this for other flood control problems within the county that you know of?
But not quite like this. I mean, there's definitely been items where the county has helped homeowners to, well, we can get into some of the FEMA type issues and that kind of thing with securing properties and that kind of thing that the district is aware of. There's been a number of other programs where we've assisted folks with wasn't that the home grant? Is that what that's called? What is or something? There's something where they help somebody relocate a home out of the floodplain or something along that. But a drainage issue like this, the county doesn't normally do them, and the reason we don't normally do them is because we don't have a public works
Mitigation
department.
grant. Hazards mitigation.
Well, so this is kind of precedent setting.
To some extent, but what I would caveat that with saying, you're not using general fund dollars, grant funds are being used, you're not gonna be buying easements from anybody. And this is a bona fide.
And this is $85,000, just to study.
Just to study, just to do an engineering plan on it, and then to actually do the fix and fall in there, it's hard construction, which will cost in the hundreds of thousands, for sure.
Well, I think this is the thing to do, but I'm not looking forward to calls I'm gonna get in District 6 for all the.
We got a motion on the table and second, I'm gonna call a question.
Can you make it subject to legal review and ARPA?
I mean, it's gotta be, it's just a study at this point.
But I mean, we gotta make sure that it'll qualify for the ARPA.
Well, I mean, it's your motion. It's your motion, go ahead. That's fine. All right. All right, I call a question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
The notice already appropriated is determined.
That's fine. Okay.
The next one is item number 2. The election machines were originally appropriated $1.5 million out of ARPA, but they got all the CARA funds, so I'm requesting to send back to the county commission to remove that appropriation clean up the bill.
I guess I motion to do just that. Motion, do that second, to remove.
There's $1.5 million appropriated to ARPA for election machines. They got bought with all the funds, it's an unnecessary appropriation to see that. It needs to be removed, I'm just requesting that the county commission remove it.
Motion made.
That's second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Item B, I sent an email to Commissioner Schaefer, we haven't had a chance to really discuss that, I would ask for that to be put on next month's agenda. Second was the revenue analysis, it's on page 24, and overall, everything looks really good. A couple of things to note, it shows a $4.1 million excess over projection of 1.01%, but several things to remember. If you look to the far right, the first about 8 items are divided on the tax rate, so those will be divided about 60.6% of that goes to the schools, so the county will not gain all those additional revenues. Make sure everybody understands that.
I've got a question here, and I'm gonna make this thing famous. It's my goal over the next couple months. But, quick question on this. Do we, on the sales tax and the 1.7 and the wheel tax, do we have to give all that to schools? Do we have to give all the sales tax to schools? Is that required by law?
The second 50% of the sales tax has to go to the school department. So what the county does in Sumner County, they've done it for many years, they put all sales tax together, they give 66.34% directly to the schools in the GPS, and they use the remaining 33.30% in the debt service fund for school.
And that's the wheel tax.
That's the sales tax.
That's the sales tax.
Now, the real tax was done by referendum.
But the sales tax is what's required is
50% of the, well, there's the second 50%, the first 50% goes to the city and incorporated areas. The second 50% comes back over here, has to be 100% for education. The unincorporated area, the county can keep that 50%, but the second 50% has to go to education.
Okay, got it.
So right now, that second 50% of the unincorporated area technically does not have to be. Now, that's about $1.7 million, it's all used for education, of the excess we're seeing. And then the other, the real tax, about 30% that goes to highway and 70% to the general purpose school fund, but that was done through referendum and various other things. That's the last time it was a referendum.
Go
said 1.7 million is the unincorporated?
No, that's right, the 1.7 excess, all that'll be going to the general purpose school or the debt service fund. I can look next month and tell you what the second, I don't have it on hand, but I can tell you what that second 50% is, we do track.
What the unincorporated part of it is?
Yep, they'll note that, I'll bring it in next month and show you what that's total is.
Seeing that breakdown,
We can bring that
Mr.
in.
Murphy, do you have a question?
I do, but go ahead.
And then the 737, 542, that is your excess in this total for the wheel tax. It goes 70% to general purpose school and 30% to highway. So you can say we were showing a $4.1 million excess, but the county will not have the majority of our excess, but a very, very minority percentage.
So my question, can you create an additional chart or whatever, and just shows that right now, this moment in time, it's at 4.18?
Right.
But like every month, what's that number? So just another chart that just has that one number. So like in January, it's this, February, it's 4.188, March, it's
So that's what we're projecting, that's what we're projecting for the whole year, and
I understand that. I would like to see as we go through the year,
what we think it is.
what that number is. I think that'd be neat.
One of the reasons it will most of the time go up is the further we get into the year, the less conservative I am the number, because we have a larger percent of the year.
Yeah, I understand.
So right now, the 4.8, I think probably we're gonna bring more than that. The closer we approach to June, I'll bring it more
I
than
mean,
that.
that would be helpful. See, it's okay, we understand why you do that.
That's what I'm doing going forward, going back to charts. But we can record it on this little table, show them what.
Yeah, it's so simple, it's not
Mr. Lyon, can you put lines on these?
Yes. I don't mind, we can put,
Just start going flashlight with this.
Yeah, the line,
Readers.
anything like that that'll help, if I could actually give you one that breaks it down by color, but it gets so large and so cumbersome.
I just want something simple.
All right.
Try to keep it simple. But we can add that in. The next item, I'm sorry, did I have a question about the revenue analysis? The next was the highway public works analysis, which everything looks good. This cash flow looks much better than anticipated at this point in the year. The next one is just the financial statement memo that is showing that they'll be available at the county commission meeting for the month of February. And those two do need to go to county commission for docketing, as they always do. And then number 28 is just an email from the library, and this is how they requested for their transfers to be treated, and I'll read it to you. What they're requesting is the managers to transfer line items within their own budget. That means by location, which is what most other departments do. And then from my understanding here, they want any new request or salary line items to go through the library committee before it comes in. That's their request. And
That makes sense to me.
they're all before we watch it.
That's fine, yeah.
If everybody's fine with it, that's Paul's and what everybody else does. That's the end of my report unless anybody has questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. Okay, moving along to old business here, student libraries. I may want to, and Ms. Lyon, I turn this back over to you. This is the transfer page 2935, 2935.
That one needs to be completely killed because the new transfers, that we got received from the board, and I think the board checked this here for later discussion. It's actually later in the year. So these are just in here the way you'll know how to get off your packet.
All right, so.
That's going away?
That was,
Those need to go away.
okay.
They're only put on here tonight, the way you'll have a record of them going away in a minute.
Okay, so now we're moving to, got reordered this. Moving to item B to the end of it, so, put care over some, jail and then we'll go to jail first and then before summer's up, new discussion.
The jail one is still, Mrs. Northfleet's working with the sheriff's department, they're actually still working with them on it.
No action.
No action at this meeting.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the C2.
second. Okay, how many you speak on this one? Others have this discussion on it, so we have several here to be. And, Mr. Hyde, last time we were here, I know you mentioned that you would probably be against this, and you've also cautioned me, and I think you were generally correct.
if you want to, take your phone out, because our motion to change that is failed. And look up White County, Arkansas census. I grew up in White County, Arkansas. And you'll see in 2020, the census actually was reduced from where it was in 2010. So was its GDP. When I played ball at Ball Knob High School, it was, we were AAA, now we're AA, I think. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because I think most of the people on the commission, or most of the people in this room, have lived in areas where they've seen nothing but economic growth. And I've come up from an area between where I grew up in Arkansas, after my parents divorced, and in West Tennessee, in Lauderdale County, when I was younger. I can assure you that the county commissioners and the Board of Education members, my friend Darren Gordon, who sits on the Board of Education in White County, they would love to have the problems we have. We have problems, lots of them. But they would love to have the problems that we have, which are brought on by economic growth. So, I'm not here to advocate for residential growth. I've been very hard against me. But let me tell you what happens when you have economic stagnation. And why, this isn't just about this 590,000, but it's the whole place part of it. And why, I am still skeptical of Sumner, Forward Sumner, and some of the way it operates with the GNRC. I have a nuanced opinion on it. When I grew up, there were 5 people in my kind of flock. 3 of them died before 40. 2 of them were brothers whose parents were middle-class folks, and one died of actually in police custody, of a methamphetamine overdose, I believe, and the other was fentanyl overdose. Third friend died also before his 40. I believe that was one more police, and I also believe that was fentanyl overdose. And these guys died because they basically couldn't find a job. That's the truth of it. There's no economy. So if you think we've got a fentanyl problem here now, shut down all the economic growth in the county, and then you're going to see a fentanyl problem. So, I'm saying all that to get down to brass tacks, because it covers my thought on this. I don't know if this specific program is going to work. I don't know if it will or not. At the end of the day, what this is scholarships or internships for people like those 3 guys I just talked about to get a role in a company who otherwise might not have gotten it. And I don't know if it's going to work or not. I don't know. I want to see the data on it. Even though I have some issues behind this clearly, but you don't just throw money into a black hole just because it sounds good. But the way we have designed this is that we can run this thing for a year, spend $125,000, a little bit more than that, test it, see if it works, and I assure you that this group, being composed of the people who it is, will be very hard to make sure that it's actually working. And if it doesn't work after that year, we can kill it. So I'm in favor of this, and that's why I'm in favor of it, and I will shut up.
Well, add to that. I have to talk to you, again, I'll go on record saying you sounded great at first. Talking to some constituents over the past couple of weeks, they disagree with me. I have one guy that lives behind me that I won't name the company, but works for a heating and air company. They took on he just named 2 kids that they took on out of high school. Didn't involve the government. They trained them, they're going to send them to school, they're going to get them certified, and once they complete certification, they'll be HVAC technicians, residential or commercial, whatever they choose. I had another constituent I talked with, asked them, what do you think of
this fall with Sumner, I mean, you got kids that are graduating high school, so I don't like it. That's why, because it doesn't matter what I want at the end of the day, it's what the people want. Just what I don't like is it feels like government overreach. There's more, they're involved in government in it. She goes, my son just got a job with another company, it's another HVAC company. Did the same thing, went through all the training, he's making around $50,000, $60,000 a year right now out of high school, which, you know, I guess by today's dollars, it's not great, but it's not bad at all either. I've got other concerns too, that people have come up here in the last month and said, you know, that this time, I don't want to name the company because I don't think that's fair, but they come up and they name the company, they say, well, they didn't pay what they said they were going to pay, they didn't hire the number of people they said they were going to hire. All these things make me a little bit concerned that we don't have really what the and you make some good points. I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, shoot you down on that. I understand. Russian I work for a company right now. My manager has enough. She says, you know, everybody that needs a job, probably the easiest job you got to do, and they'll kids can move up in the company if they just prove themselves. So a lot of this that I've taken into consideration, you know, I've got to kind of swing the way the constituents want me to swing on this one. And they're all telling me, you know, I don't want you to move forward with this.
Sorry, I didn't cut you off.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Ms. Brown.
I grew up on a farm. I learned how to drive tractors, operate all kinds of farm machinery, things like that. I did that on my own because I wanted to learn how to. I went into the military. I learned how to drive and operate most anything in my motor pool. I had, in fact, 2 driver's licenses because I had so many things that I could operate. A lot of this stuff, employers are going to train the people on. Secondly, we've got scholarships coming from the lottery. We've got scholarships where they dipped into the TDOT funds, and that's why our streets are some messed up. That's why we have signs falling down on our state roads, interstates, and things like that. And kids are washing out the first year of college, community college. So the money's there. It's just, there's folks that need to have some, and that's where I feel this needs to be decided, because the jobs are there. There's too many jobs.
Well, I would note that you and I came up with the military. The military is government funded. It got me out. I mean, it's government funded. So,
the only thing too, is, you know what, one question one parent posed me, which I thought was an excellent question, goes, say my kid goes through this program, and decide, I don't like it anymore, just quit midstream. And all of a sudden, yeah, well, I understand that, but what if I just have this repetitive, I mean, you know, the mayor makes good points when he says, you know, to retain and, you know, keep people, you know, without having to, you know, go through a constant turnarounds, we've got to, you know, recruit them and keep them. But I mean, if we're kind of constantly seeing, you know, the kids just don't follow through with it, we're not saying all kids, but to be honest, there are some that will not follow through with this. How much money are we wasting the taxpayers?
I get it. I mean, I get it. It's why I think we're running for a year and 2. And we just spent $100,000 on charity. We don't expect any ROI on that. It's about $125, we're about to get an ROI. If they stay. I mean, that is the metric. Do they stay? If they don't stay, you kill it. I mean, that literally is the metric I've spoken to these folks. If they don't stay, you kill it. You got to keep them in there. If they go in 4 weeks, if they're not retained, you know, we got, you know, I think they want to have 500 total. If they get if 100 people come through the program and 2 of them are staying, you kill it. Which is, now, I think that's the thing. You test it and you find out, and you don't necessarily appropriate all of it at once, which is the way it is designed. That is 100% the way it's designed. But I gotta say, I know I get this, the kids need to have more drive. But like, there's not anything you can do about that. Like, we can just smash on the kids all game long, but, I mean, I don't know
And I mean, you know, not gonna hurt my feelings one way or the other, but just wanted to get something.
I'm with these two gentlemen. I've been a small business owner literally since I was 25 years old. I have never not trained somebody if they really showed an interest. And it doesn't matter whether it's driving a tractor or a forklift or a truck or anything else. And so, to me, this feels like another giveaway. I could be totally wrong about that, but I know that the Tennessee Proms has been kind of a dismal result to it. I feel like this is the same thing. And I voted for it last time because I thought it sounded like a good thing, but at that point in time, everybody talked about the $37 million we still had. Now that I know that it's getting low and we're heading for hard times, it's never been easier for a young man or woman to have a job right now. Every door has a help wanted sign in it. Government should be doing things that the private sector can't or won't. That's not what's happening today. And you can blame it on our generation of parents or your generation of parents, but at the end of the day, you can't make a horse drink water even though you lead it right to the trough. So, correct.
Remind me, on this program, how do individuals get involved?
So the idea is that the Ford Sumner folks have a pool of people already identified. They have a couple pools, about 2,900 of them, I think, something to that effect, are identified as lower income, less likely to have coming from maybe GED as opposed to high school graduate, that type of track. And so that is one group that's already been identified. Additionally, there are other groups that are identified. One of the gentlemen spoke earlier of tracks through TCAT, through high school, some from the prison system, some veterans. So the folks are already identified. At least my understanding of it is that there are people there who are identified for outreach. And the companies are already identified. So there are, I think 30-some, 39, maybe more, I think it's growing, companies are identified. And the idea is, you've got the companies, given 4 weeks to grease the wheels to see if they'll stay. Does that make sense?
It does, and I appreciate that. And to me, I'm in favor of I think what you're recommending is the first year, test it out, see if it works. To me, this type of program gives an opportunity for the demographics or whatever, those groups that have been identified, to try to latch on to and take advantage of the opportunity, right? And you've got your comments earlier that have been made here is, if they really wanted something bad, I'm paraphrasing, wanted something bad enough, they go out and find it on their own. I mean, not everybody's built that way. Some people need a little bit of direction, and it sounds like the types of groups that have been identified probably fall into that category where, hey, here's some direction, let's lead them to, lead them that way, test it for a year, see what happens. I think it could be very valuable, but I agree with the hesitation of, is it going to see the results that we would hoped it would? That's why I'm in agreement with at least, let's do it for a year, look at the metrics. If it works, that's great. If not, let's change directions. I don't see really a big negative from doing that. So, added those comments.
All right. Any other comments? I think we're ready. All right. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
You're
Abstaining.
So I'm going to count these. Becker, Harrison, Schoaf, yay. Bob Brown, no, and no. So motion fails. All right, let's move on. Drug court. So this is $100,000 we spoke to earlier, Tennessee Mental Health Court Program. And this is pass-through funding for, the issue here that I think we had was, well, actually, let's get a motion on the table.
Second.
All right, good. So the issue we had, I'm going to get to you. The issue I think we had here was just add before that fee, but the commentary earlier today was that fee has been kind of paid for a long time, and also understand that if the federal, or excuse me, the state money goes away, this position goes away. Go ahead.
New position or existing position?
New position. New position.
So this is a new full-time position, it's not an existing position.
It's a new full-time position.
Yeah.
But the general trajectory of the funds have been, they've been approved every year by the state.
Correct.
There's other branches.
There's other grants as well.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, it's not existing, so it's new for this.
This is part of Governor Lee's mental health package.
And so I was glad to see the judge say this is a surplus, it's budgeted from the state surplus, tax money for the courts. And so, you mentioned it before, it's like, that's great now, but, once you get funds go away, and I'm glad the judge admitted that, but the understanding is that if we don't have funding for it, the position goes away.
Yep.
So I don't have a problem voting for it, I just with that understanding.
Yep.
And I appreciate you saying, the judge saying that earlier. So.
Any other discussion here?
I moved to.
No, there was already.
Oh, so you're right.
All in favor?
Can we waive the second reading now?
Yeah, go ahead. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that was with the waiver. Correct. Okay. Now moving into the election commission. Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to discuss item D2.
Make the motion.
Second. Okay. I'd like to suspend the rules here and have some direct questioning of the election commission folks, if that would be all right. We have actually somebody, ma'am. Mr. Erling. So I've got a couple of questions. And some of these are going to go, I guess this first one really, they really are tied together. So I'll just go ahead and start out. So, and I've asked this a few times, how many dollars does your organization have on hand right now?
I sent you that email, 74,000.
74,000?
That's for now through the fiscal year ending June 30th. That's outside of the payroll and other obligations that are submitted, the Social Security.
I'm talking total on hand. Total on hand. Total available budget.
As of February 1st. As of February 1st, it's $363,803. And that's for all the payroll lines,
That's what.
insurance, that sort of thing.
So the request is for 61,000. Mr. Loring, you did a projection here, and you're actually showing their existing funds should be fine to cover to the end of that.
Maybe it's going to what they do.
In your work, I'm sorry.
Mr. Loring put together a trajectory that showed actually that these should be good to cover. Expected. Yeah, go ahead. Can y'all come up here a little bit closer?
That's just based on current averages. It says in the bottom we don't have a lot of the information.
Yeah, no, I'm tracking. So maybe the right thing to do here is get to this, and it's definitely relevant to the next one. The reason I'm questioning this is that you're asking for money that has been, that you're projecting that you're going to need. But I think we might be spending money for things that have not been approved. So this is relevant to the election machines here, so when were these elections, and the reason I'm asking here is because it's relevant to the 61,000. But I realize we're also talking about these three, but it's really important. When did we order these election machines?
2020, well, the RFP went out, and then it was awarded in early 2022.
Right.
Okay. So when did the election commission notify the county commission of the need to, so we have a need to move these, that's the argument.
We don't have enough space right now to locate.
So when did the election commission notify?
Let me clarify one thing if I could. It depends on whether you're talking about the new machines or the old machines. The old machines had to get moved because of the flood downstairs, we had to move them out of the building.
I'm talking about the new one.
Okay.
Moving and moving. When did the election commission notify the county commission of a need to move these new machines?
We began discussing with former county Mayor Holt in 2020.
Right, I mean, that's the commission. When did they notify the commission?
I just dealt directly with County Mayor Holt. I don't know what his communication was with the commission. At that time, he understood, and it is his understanding today, that he is in charge, or was in charge of all county buildings, so we worked directly with him.
Okay. So, when did you begin moving, when did you notify, I guess I would ask, so you notified the previous county mayor?
2020.
When did you notify the new county mayor?
John and I have been discussing it basically since he became the new county mayor.
So, when did we find out about it, Mr. Vaughn?
John came and asked me to appropriation.
When?
About 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago, that's when I heard about it. So let me ask this question. Did your department execute a contract for those? Did you make purchases or execute a contract for a purchase relevant to moving into the new building at TRC?
But there wasn't a purchase for the move into the new TRC building. That was a lease that was expiring.
No, I mean, I'm thinking about two contracts. Did you execute a contract for internet?
We did. Mr. Sittler recommended that we cancel that, and then he came back and we resubmitted it for approval.
So.
That was just a line. That was a Comcast line. We have to have a separate line.
And did you also execute a contract to move, physically move in, or physically move the line? I think there was a separate contract.
County.
Same one, so, okay.
County Mayor Isabel, because of the flood, took it out of his money and physically moved all of our materials, equipment out of the basement into the TRC building. He had to replace the flooring in the basement.
And as a result, that's probably Roy's question is, but we had to put cameras on the machines.
Right, so.
But we paid for that out of this year's budget. That's not part of the capital outlay.
What I'm trying to understand here is, and I know that I'm new, and I've recently read an article that describes all of us sitting here as new, and maybe insinuates that I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm asking you to educate me here on Tennessee code. Is the election commission authorized to sign itself up for contracts or spend money that hasn't been appropriated by this body?
It's my position that it was appropriated by the former county.
Was it ever appropriated? Mr. Long?
No.
Is that fact? Is that something we can verify factually?
The moving, yes.
Okay.
We actually have to request verification.
So was there ever a request for verification for this?
There was no request made in that office. We actually sent verification.
Mr. Long personally took it out of our
That is-
capital
that's
outlay.
Okay, we're going to stop this, and we're not going to get into the argument. These are arguments of facts. And we need, I think this, I've looked at it, I think we can confirm that I didn't see it. So there's that. So again, what does TCA say about appropriations? It wasn't appropriated. Assuming it wasn't appropriated, we're spending money.
You must properly fund.
Now, what it says is that this body is the funding body. And it is very difficult to approve new funds when I see an organization signing itself up for things that were not approved.
That's not a
Now-
correct statement. We paid for the security system and the line out of this year's budget. That was not an appropriation.
Mr. Vaughn?
It was a multi-year contract. It was a 2-year contract, it actually spanned 2 fiscal years.
So,
Which contract?
The one that Ms. Hall signed off on.
Right, but it
See,
was
there's
canceled.
actually-
well, it's canceled, actually found it.
There's an actual process in the purchasing. You are one to request a PO after it's approved by legal. What we seen was the actual contract was signed, wasn't approved by legal per policy, well, did not have a PO, it actually spanned 2 fiscal years without a subject to appropriation or approval.
And these are all verifiable, right?
Yes, they're actually in your packet tonight.
Yep, understood. So, I get it, we're gonna argue about this back and forth, and it's fine. I'm gonna, well, open up for any other questions. That's my line of questioning for now. The other questions I have are specific to the request to move.
We're on just
on the
D2 right now, the $61,000 request.
That's right.
Correct. I'm gonna move to reject this.
Second.
And I'll tell you why. This is for convenience moving, as far as like staffing for that, is that what this is about?
I mean, it's just my understanding of this is that it was just asked for ongoing operations.
If I may, it was for the part-time help through the energy. That's all it was. It's nothing to do with convenient boat centers. It's just staffing to complete our operations through the end of fiscal year 2023.
Okay. Any other discussion?
So this request is for additional funding to the end of June.
And, I mean, my position here is that we have an analysis from Mr. Long that states that, I'm getting a breakout here, that we should be good through the end of the year.
If they continue with their current.
If they continue with the existing trend.
And spend close to last year, they still.
It's close.
Yeah.
It's close.
If they increase part-time or anything else more than they did last year.
And I look at that, and then I look on the other side, that we've got spend happening outside of, policy. And so,
So, question, is this for, are you gonna go out and hire somebody, or is somebody already here and this money's needed to pay?
Because of Obamacare and this portion that got rolled into it, we can only work a part-time person an average over a course of the year 30 hours a week. Otherwise, they're considered full-time. So we have multiple part-time people that just roll. We have about 6 part-time people that we keep under those averages. So it's just part-time help through the end of this fiscal year.
And we talked about signs, help one, we've got help one signs in.
So this is funding for the part-time employees that already
That's correct.
are employed?
Yes, sir.
Not
new.
not hiring someone new, this is someone who was already here?
That's correct.
So without this funding, you have to let people go, is that?
Well, if there's no funding, we won't be able to pay them, so we won't be able to bring them into office to do the work of the election commission.
They're already over on the part-time line item, $97 as of today. And we have a payroll Friday.
And we've been running in the negative. I came to you guys back in October, so we've been running in the negative all of these months.
We're running in the negative, but we're paying for things that we haven't been.
Well, let's separate it, if I may. So,
Go ahead.
I don't understand, so help educate me here. So, the past couple months, or I don't know how many, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 5, whatever months, it's actually come in here wanting some money and said, let's just wait until after the fact and pay it. And it's like, I would prefer to get out in front of it, and if we know we're gonna have to pay salary.
Well, here's the thing, it's not a blank check. We're gonna, if they can come in and ask for everything, and how are we gonna check this? So I've done benchmarking on this, and we're spending more, on a per capita basis than every Loudoun County.
But my question is.
That's not true, Commissioner Tuck. It was a flawed analysis.
I disagree.
But my question is, if they continue, if they don't terminate employees or whatever you want to call it, and the employees still work, and then they come to us for the salary that pays those employees, we're gonna pay it, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Right.
So I don't like that process, because it would just continue, they'll just continue to employ the
Well, I think the problem is we give them the dollar amount that they've got, and that's what they've got.
Yeah, I would agree with that, but is that legally, what is that?
What is required by law, I understand, is what is reasonably required in order to execute operations.
I think we, as Mr. Sitt, we look at it as reasonable.
So, you know, as far as reasonable,
Statutory.
and I think if you do a benchmark, and you see that similarly situated counties are doing it for less, and what we're giving is reasonable. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they can go to court, and if they're having a
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, could you put interrupt?
I
know, but you're asking a question, it's not, it's just interrupting, if you want to ask a question, we'll ask questions.
So, go ahead. You got a question?
I tried to address the complaints on the benchmarking.
Yeah, go ahead.
She said that that I purposely left out, I believe, Wilson County because they were cheaper. So I actually went back and pulled their budget and actual operations, and that's not true.
And you have,
We actually have those over here.
Where are those located?
You had that out last month, or that?
No, it's something I had, if we wanted to.
You really dug into it. Benchmarking.
Maybe last month, correct.
Is there any work that's currently been, is there any work that has currently been done that we're going to need to pay arrears?
We've been in order since December.
So is there any work right now that has been completed that we would have to pay, and that you don't have any money?
Chairman Hyde advised us to continue to operate in the negative as we need, so that's what we're doing. So there are negative balances, to answer your question.
But we've got $333,000 that I'm assuming to be able to transfer into the budget.
But that's what I was trying to tell you. All of those payroll items are already submitted through the end of the year. Those are not available funds. That's the email.
Except for the $74,000. So you've got the $74,000 in your actual figures.
But that's for all operations from now through the end of the fiscal year.
But that's fine. So $74,000 is what you can do.
If we don't buy toner and paper and pencils and IT services, everything we have to do to run our office.
If you're telling us, move stuff around, and run out of money, we'll do it, and back here, just like we told you the last 2 months, that we don't have the money to finish it.
Which is, goes back to my point, it's a completely broken process.
But I mean, my point is that we've got somebody, I mean, at least from what I'm looking at, we've got spend that is above board, and then we've got direct evidence spend that is being done outside of policy. Like, I don't, you know, it feels wrong to just continue to throw money into that. Right? I mean, what?
You're talking spend outside of policy.
Spend outside of policy. And I realize those two things aren't exactly the same, but they are related. Right?
And my opinion on the move thing, to me, there has to be, you know, I think any time you probably transition between a county mayor to a new county mayor, or any type of transition of leadership, I would think there's probably it sounds to me there's a handoff there that didn't take place. But I believe that the former county mayor was working with Ms. Ashley and, you know, trying to do what's right, trying to maximize our building space. I think if this is that same state property that the lease went up and we're either going to get rid of it or find a new use for it. I do remember that conversation. And so, you know, I think, you know, I believe that former county mayor found a good use for that space. I don't think that, but then when the transition happened, there was obviously a disconnect somewhere. I mean, obvious. And it's obvious that there's tensions everywhere here, which is a little uncomfortable, but it is what it is. I don't know if there's any ill intent on getting this Comcast line contract or whatever. I don't know what that is, but how much money are we talking about? How much was
$6,000 total, what?
$3 million and about $220 million.
But it's my understanding from Mr. Isbell, it's Ms. Ashley's office, and they've been moving stuff over to the TRC building for some months now.
Well, that's a good point, like,
Yeah.
it's been moving and it hasn't been approved.
Well, I'm not disagreeing, because the whole thing's broken, right? Let me put Rambler in front. Now, I don't, disconnecting this from the next item we're about to talk about, you know, you talked about toner, using the 74,000, do you not have a budget line for toner and stuff?
We do, all of that is part of that.
So all your other, so all that other stuff adds up to a total of 74,000.
Roughly, I mean, we could be $50,000 off one way.
And you're saying that, the 74,000 that is already earmarked or line item for toner and whatever it is, that you're 61,000 short of that money.
Time, yeah, that's all that is.
And yes, and during the last budget cycle, there was, you know, and again, the transition from the old commission to new commission, there was, I wasn't on the budget committee, but my understanding is that a decent chunk of Ms. Ashley's budget got
$297,000.
withdrawn, removed, and the previous budget chair, I think, was assuring that, you know, it would, you know, come back to us, you know, after the elections, and we'll pay you, right? Which is, I think, what broke the process. It's, I mean, the process shouldn't be them coming to us after the fact and say, hey, we owe, you know, another $20,000 in salary. That's for work that's already been done. The process should be, I think we all agree.
I agree.
It's up front, you have X number of dollars, you live within that X number of dollars.
And we're 100% gonna fix it during the next.
I 100% agree with that too. But, I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way of band-aiding it between now and the budget cycle. That's not detrimental to really anybody. So anyway.
That's right.
I think that this whole issue is probably has started back with the former mayor, because the mayor has no authority, as I understand it, and as I have heard for many years and looked at the law. It has been generally recognized in the state of Tennessee that the county commission has the authority to provide space and utilize space in county facilities. And that's usually done in every county through the General Operations Committee. Now, I'm willing for that to be verified, but I think you'll find that to be true, that it's the county commission's responsibility to assign space in every county. If the other mayor was doing this, the only thing I can say to that is, it was outside his realm of responsibility. And he should not have told you to do something of that sort without going to the county commission. And if the county commission allowed it, then they relinquished their authority to do so. And I would ask Mr. Sittler to check what I'm saying, and I'm quite sure from my experiences that I'm correct on this. Only the county commission can assign space and utilization of space in county buildings. The fact that you have started moving, this is not against you, the election commission, I'd say this to anyone, needs to stop immediately, because I do have a suggestion that I personally am bringing forward to the county commission at the next General Operations Committee, that is designed to utilize that building. And it doesn't include the election commission at this time. So I am for you to cease moving your equipment, your furniture, your personnel. I understand some personnel is already there.
All the equipment was moved for Mr. Isabel's request because of the flood. So all the equipment is there. Everything is there. The only thing that's not there now is our desks and our office.
And that's the equipment that was in the basement.
Well, in my opinion, of all offices that should remain here in this building where the public can easily find them and utilize them is the registrar of voters.
May I ask where you would like for us to put the voting machine?
Well, one suggestion would be to take the break room. We provide a break room for this building. And I understand you have a break room in your office.
They won't even come in. We've got 275 machines. They won't
Point of
even
order,
come
point of
close.
order.
Well, there are a lot of...
But I understand what...
Okay, there's a lot of space available. I'll find you a space for the election machine if you
I
want
need
me
about
to.
2,520 square feet.
I think we can find that. But we need to cease moving into that building because you're not going to have that built, so there's no sense in doing that.
So, Ms. Brown, go ahead.
In moving these, this equipment, everything, who did you contract?
Mr. Isabel has got us some trustees and some of the main staff of this.
So this was done, government people.
Very quickly, yes, because the carpet was saturated.
Did they were paid extra for this, or
You'd have to ask the mayor.
on top of their regular?
No, we had a flood mitigation issue, we ran out of space, we had to move them somewhere. And if you go down the basement,
Did this cause the problem with your budget?
No, this has nothing to do with that,
Other than we had to put cameras in?
because the new machines are coming to work.
The reason I brought both these things up, Mr. Plunger, is that we're doing our best to assess the spend of every department. And we've got to have an understanding that a requirements line is not a blank check. That's really it. And I understand where you're trying to get. And maybe the right call today, well, the right call today to get this done is to get some of this, or some portion of it, get it through the end of the year. I mean, I can do that, but this conversation, I tried to have it not out in front of everybody. I tried to have it between people, but emails just devolved, and so, then we got that meeting involved, so we'll just have it out in the open. So that was the point of this. So the motion on the table, go ahead.
We're on item D2, just salary. That's right, we're not talking about the machines
We're not
right now.
talking about that.
We're going to be talking about that in a minute.
We're going to talk about that in a minute.
I want to keep on being out of order.
Yes.
So I call it brief.
All right, call the question. Your question's called.
Take it out of order.
Can you,
Call myself out of order.
that's all right. Can you restate what it is?
I make the motion to deny. That's my...
All right. All in favor to deny the announcement?
Yeah, we didn't vote, call the question. So.
No, I already said that.
You withdrew it? All right, go ahead.
And my question may be about, this is just on 2, correct?
We're not yet.
We're not on 3?
Correct.
Okay. I'll get back to you.
All right.
So, another comment here, so we deny this, and I think Mr. Emily just said it, they can move stuff around and they'll be back in front of us next month or whenever. So this isn't like fixing the problem, it's just...
Well, I hope they can fix the problem.
Okay.
That's what I hope, that we can live within the bounds that we're given. That's what I hope. It's very easy to be fiscally conservative
let's just not bring it back up until closer to the end of June and see what the real number is. And at that point, the real number's a real number.
That's right. And then we'll solve it.
Whenever money runs out.
Yeah.
Whenever that is.
Correct, yes, sir. Sounds good to me.
So we're gonna continue to run it at negative balance.
No, they're gonna move stuff around, what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Right.
Whatever we got.
But when that runs out, we're gonna negative balance.
Yeah, and then we'll talk some more.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor of denying it, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Anyone opposed? All righty, now we can move on to number D3, or actually the new D3, which is the move request. Move for the second. So, floor is open. Go ahead.
All right, so, I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. We've got confirmation from our county finance director that funds have been appropriated for items that haven't been approved by the commission, so which is a violation of basically what we understand is dictated on how county governments operate. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a question for you.
I don't know what they were operating under at the time, but yes, based on the way the county set up.
With the contract, and everything that you have to pull back, so there's a violation of state law, I just wanted to clarify that. So, when I've heard, I guess I want to talk about these election machines. The basement empty right now, right? And first, I'll just clarify on the record, I vote against these machines. There's only two vendors and two states use them, and I spoke against this, and then there was a threatening letter to a citizen because she spoke out against this. I agree with Commissioner Hyde as far as like where the election commission should be. I think they should be in this building, and I'll be full disclosure. I did not support convenience voting centers because I believe that the state, our Constitution, but really in Article 4, Section 1 says, it requires the voters to vote in an election precinct in which they reside. I mean, that's our state constitution. So I'm not in favor of, and I wasn't in favor of, basically changing how our state constitution operates with these convenience voting centers. And so I think a lot of these problems have come into the fact of what I've heard in the budgetary standpoint on future things like this. So I'm just stating my opposition on the record because I didn't vote for it to begin with and support that process. But, as part of this, we used to do early voting here in this building, and I'm a proponent of doing early voting in this building and returning to that and having the election commission here. I just went to the basement tonight. The basement's completely empty, and there's plenty of space for those new machines to go. But it does bring up a question, I guess, if I may, Mr. Chairman, with the old voting machines that have been moved to the TRC building, are those required to be secured, or because they're old machines and not in use, are those no longer required to be secured? Does anybody?
They're required to be secure, yes, sir.
They're required to be considered. I guess, can you please define secure?
They're under 24/7 surveillance at all times.
Do they have new walls constructed and fencing?
We stack them, you're only supposed to stack them 4 high. We stack them about 15 high because we need the new machines for coming, so we did find one room to accommodate them. And we do have cameras on them right now.
Required by federal and state law.
So I saw a photo of the space, and I guess I saw suitcases, red suitcases, and I saw black, totes. Are you saying the machines are in the totes or the red suitcases?
No, the red suitcase is a precinct case that has all the materials in it, toner, hole puncher, things like that, extra cords. The black totes actually have the printers, the laptops, all of those cords in it. And then machines are a separate carrying case for each one that you carry individually. They don't roll. The new ones are about double the size, and they roll along with one.
So,
and they stand vertical.
Or freestanding, and they're not in a tote.
Right. So those are all separate areas.
So, go ahead.
Well, you know, going back to just, again, this is what I hear citizens tell me. You know, citizens they want secure elections. We had a citizen speak tonight about this. You know, and part of that is returning to keeping it a precinct voting, because I know even with early voting, I had the late Commissioner Mo Taylor tell me his ballots got screwed up in early voting for different precincts. I know Commissioner Janong had to have her Gallatin and different ballots with other people. So it's going to happen, and we're using machines. You know, there's a lot of people who want to return to basically a currency grade, hand-marked paper ballots, and get away from machines. And so, and I'm just saying, there's a lot of people in this state, who want to have that kind of electric integrity, you know, and bringing back to precincts counting, and there's a lot of people who want just same-day voting, and again, our state constitution talks about same-day voting. Early voting is kind of a deviation from our constitutional process as the state constitution. You read state constitution, and so part of this whole process is when I look at the graphs that our finance director has provided, when you see the scale of this benchmarking and how much the disproportionate amount of funding that we have for our election department compared to the counties that are almost twice our size, it's an imbalance, and it just keeps growing out of control. And I appreciate being threatened with lawsuits every other month from the election commission, like it's happened, and reading that article, threatening a lawsuit. I mean, that's how we're going to operate county government. Obviously, that just seems to be the going flavor these days. But you know, I want to see these election machines here in this building. I think in the basement, and I want to see our election office stay in this building. And that's just my votes will move towards those things. And as far as I'll go ahead and speak about early voting. You know, our early voting, there's nothing that is statistically that I've been seeing that is a significant improvement in our participation in voting day, because we've had 2 weeks of early voting in Gallatin, 2 weeks of early voting in Hendersonville, and satellite voting everywhere. It's like, it seems like it's just growing out of control without really any statistically substantial results. We're talking about voting, election machine storage, and adding more space, and because we're talking about salaries. You know, I'd be in favor of, I'm an election day guy, so I mean, I know to say I don't like early voting, I'd get rid of it if I could. It's not popular to say, but I'll say it. But if you're going to do early voting, I would like to minimize the locations or central location here like it used to be. You sell it like 2 days here, 2 days one place.
Order on this being the agenda item.
Well, it's just kind of all feeding together. It's everything that I'm seeing with what we're talking about historic election machines and what this behemoth this is growing into. We talked about a lot of things tonight. We talked about these benchmarking. We talked about budgets. We talked about things. So all these things add together that is creating this growth in the budget and the necessary funding. The things that I'm talking about is what's creating this, is fueling this growth. So it's like, if the solution is to get the budget under control, my solution is to get the locations under control, get those buildings under control.
I agree.
Just move on.
So, you know, but it needs to be said, because everybody's talking about everything. So, I mean, these are just things that we talk about every meeting, and so, you know.
We got something.
So, what is, like, when this is an agenda item, we just said election commission, what we have, like, what is the vote? Is it vote for what are we going to do?
The thing we have to take care of right now, and Ms. Price, you're here, that we have an immediate problem. And the immediate problem is, where are these machines going to land? That's a problem we got to solve. And,
they're being delivered.
They're going to be delivered, right? I mean, that's the problem that we've got to solve.
So, right now, that's a short-term solution. We have an empty basement that's got moved.
Right, so,
I so moved.
Exactly. We've got something to say, I know you were in.
This has nothing to do with this. I'll let you go ahead and vote, and I'll ask the question.
Well, I think it's relevant. The question you had is relevant.
Okay, well, I leaned over and asked you, and I'm just very curious. I may be the only one in this entire room that doesn't know this. I don't know, but I keep hearing about an article that, was it in the newspaper, or what are we talking about? I'd like to know.
Ms. Ashley, would you like to comment
Lookout?
Tennessee Lookout, a reporter called me last week and just asked some questions, because I'm more into this situation. He just asked me questions about the funding and the move to the new building. And I
There was
explained
a statement in there I would like to ask you. In that article, I believe you made a statement, something to the effect of, you may have to consider legal action. If these-
I said I would rather not consider going down the judicial path. That's exactly what I said.
So, we do have an issue with these things. I did, so Mr. Emley, you were.
I just want to respond to something. There was talk about community development centers, just so everybody on this commission knows, we do not have community development centers. Other counties do.
Right.
But we haven't. We tried a couple times, and because of issues that came up, we couldn't complete the process.
So I got a question about that. We don't have those.
We do not.
And fair enough, you know what, you're right.
There's a motion on the floor.
Well, it was discussed, that's why we don't bring it up.
Fair enough.
We do not
Motion on the floor.
have community development. Can I say something about the machines?
Yeah.
Currently, where the machines were, I don't know that the shelving is still there downstairs. If it's there, it won't work. Those machines were wired.
The shelving required by.
No, we forgot where to stack them pretty high. So we had machines that were high height, we have to pull them down. Those are the old machines. The new machines are 54 pounds apiece. They cannot stack on top of each other, and they cannot be that high. We don't get them down safely. They have to be lined up side by side by side by side by side. I don't think what y'all were talking about was putting us where the old machine would work. They're not going to bring us, they were stacked pretty high.
Point of clarification, May 17, 2021, Resolution 2105-02, Sumner County voted to establish convenient vote centers. Fine story.
Okay.
Commission vote, I'm just saying.
Okay, we got you.
We voted, but they haven't been voted.
They were never done.
Separate discussion, we get that, but,
Well, mine's a real quick question. Everything that we took out of those rooms, gotta have a location for those. All the equipment.
well, I get it, but there's no ticking time bomb on that one, right? I mean, we don't have a federal,
No.
Homeland
So we're gonna get it removed from the building, from the TRC building.
But we have to keep the old machines under camera too.
so the old machines are under camera now.
Yes.
Were the old machines under camera when they were being moved?
They were under eyes.
Yeah. They did have a election official the entire time.
I have a great deal of respect for Mr. Hyde. I think I do have a disagreement the way I read the Tennessee code. If the county mayor is the county officer, the general agent of the county, shall have the power, and it shall be the county mayor's duty to, number one, have the care and custody of all the county property except such as is by law in the custody of other officers. You go on down through there, I'm pretty sure the way I read this, he has the authority to move people around. Now, that's the way I read it.
Care and custody is not utilizing space.
Well,
And assignment of space.
and I
It's
grant
not
that.
appropriation of funds.
But we gotta remember that we are also, as elected officials, we're part-time employees. If we're gonna start doing that, I fear we're gonna get into a situation where it's gonna balloon out of control.
If the new machines are here to replace the old machines, when are we getting rid of the old machines? So,
We're working on that, there's processes in them that have to get taken care of. Talking to Michael Road about that, we're waiting for an answer to see if they're gonna help us with that. And they have to stay under the same things as the new machines until they become in essence inert.
okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
From the, on the new machines, assuming there's some type of programming that's done to like set them up for Sumner County.
We have to do that.
Okay, so but until that process happens, why do they have to be under
Because there are
cameras?
machines in our possession and we're required to, but
So even though they're not set up at all?
Right, somebody could go in there and do something to them that will have.
Why can they not be, well, did that answer your question?
Yes.
I guess I have one, and then I'd like to respond to something you said.
Start to say, why can they not?
Why can they not be stacked?
They stand 41 inches high, they're on wheels with a roller, like if you think about going through the airport. The bag, they're double the size and they weigh 54
And
pounds
they're not designed to be stacked on top.
at all. They're standing stored vertically.
That's why we didn't, the old ones, we didn't stack on top of each other. That's why we had the 3 shelves.
How many square feet did you say, Dean?
2,520.
How many square feet is in that basement? I was just in the basement. I mean, it's considerable now.
That's just for the machines. Now we're talking about, then we have to have, if you don't want us in that building, for what Mr. Hyde is saying, then we have to have all of the red precinct cases, which is 1 per precinct, and then double totes for each precinct.
Right, but the one we're, again, the thing we're trying to solve for right now is a ticking time bomb for where these machines are gonna land, which this body found out 2 weeks ago. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's clearly, I'm a little tweaked on it, I'll be honest. But when you find out about something, 2 weeks, you're like, oh, you have to do this, it doesn't give you a lot of options, and so it's very frustrating. So that's what we need to solve for. I guess we don't have to solve the totes, we don't have to have them set up to be work. It's gonna be a year before another election's gonna be held. We don't have to solve all these other nice-to-haves. We need a place for these things to physically land.
Can I make a caveat to that?
Go ahead.
Immediately we don't, but in the near future we will, because then we've got to start reprogramming, we've got to start assigning and matching computers to.
That's right.
All this stuff, and so we've got to have, I mean, we can't have this, we could have machines here and number them and then run over there and try to get codes. You understand what I'm trying to say, so for each precinct and how many machines are going where and all that stuff.
Yes, sir. Solving for a short-term problem right now that we just found out about, it has to be solved by March.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right. Okay. Is there any more discussion here? Okay.
So if they're, how many new machines are there?
275.
Okay. So if they start loading them in the basement and we don't get 275,
You will not.
but if that happens, let's just say it gets up to 200, we can put the other, short term, put the other 75 over in the TRC building with the old machines.
They won't fit in that same building with those cameras. I mean, not sorry, that same room. Yeah, camera.
Like it's not even 25, like, I'm not talking about all of them, I'm talking about.
I mean, could we stack maybe 1 or 2 on top of the, however our stacks are, probably?
So I apologize, where are they, where was your plan to have these delivered anyway? If there's no room there?
To the rear, the entire rear section of the warehouse section of the TRC building, that was gonna be the machine room. It was gonna include everything, the
Yeah, that's all
machines,
about
the
the
totes, the red precinct cases, the laptop, everything related to that precinct was gonna be in back area.
And that's now being used for the maintenance department?
That was a proposal that was made, I don't know where that stands, I can't tell you something.
Chairman, that is a picture of the machine. It's 12 inches by 21 and a half, and it stands vertical. That's about 2 square feet per machine. At 250, that's 500 square feet. I realize that in this drawing, there are aisles that they're requiring to work on that. In the short term, 500 square feet would do it.
We'll try to cram them wherever you tell us to cram them, but we have a backup plan to the backup plan, so to speak, if there's no room, they don't fall through.
I mean, there's definitely 500 square feet in the basement. I was just down there.
So the schematic that he's referring to is with work tables in
Yeah,
between each,
right.
so that we can program them, verify them.
Understand.
And I know nothing about that, I just, but if
We
you
don't have to
like
do that right
starting,
away, obviously.
So the motion is to put them in the basement.
Where are they being shipped from,
Indiana,
and when are they gonna be shipped?
well, it's freight, so we're not exactly sure the date, they'll notify us the day they ship it. They should be here by the end of March, is what we've been told.
We know they may be here by, they may be here by March 1st, maybe here by March 3rd. That's what it's all here.
So we just need to give them, if this passes, we just need to give them this address instead of whatever that other building is.
Well, we're gonna need to put cameras down there, so.
Can we take the camera system out?
Yeah, so the camera system that was there is over there now. That camera system, I mean, we gotta get a new camera system, because we'll have two camera systems.
Going back to what Commissioner Becker asked about the current space, not creating workshop space, storage, simply short-term storage. I don't know if I heard an answer of even the TRC building, current space, just for storage, not workspace, you know, to accommodate these machines as well, but as overflow. Did we get an answer on that? Like, if, I don't think I heard an answer, so.
I didn't hear it.
So,
Mr. Erling, or Ms. Ashton, wasn't here, I'm sorry.
So my question is, about what Commissioner Becker said, I didn't hear an answer for it, is in our basement, sounds like there's enough room for storage, short-term storage, find a permanent solution. If there was 275 machines and 200 fit down there, sounds like that all will, but I'd definitely say 75 don't. I mean, we're not talking about creating a workspace area, we're just talking, if you're talking about storage at the TRC building, there sounds like there's plenty of room in that TRC building to put extra machines just for under camera or short-term storage, secure location. Nothing, not talking about workspaces and aisles and the schematic, I'm just talking about simply short-term, because these are coming, we talked about it 2 weeks ago, these are coming next month, like, you know, and we gotta do something about it. So, we're trying to do something about it, but if we have to even divide and conquer, some of those, as Commissioner Becker suggested, sounds like that is possible, it's not a problem.
I think, if I understand what you're saying, that would require a third set of cameras. Because I don't think they're gonna fit into the room with the
I saw photos, you know, or just, the only one TRC was a pretty big.
it's gonna fall together.
That would be at the Mayor Isbell, I mean, he was, I think.
I don't know if either house they could, but the new ones can't stack on top of each other.
I get it.
That's my concern.
I would like to amend your motion, your amendment to, I don't know if that would money would be set aside up to $2,000 for additional cameras.
Can I ask one question before you? I know it's maybe a little bit, I'm intimating that the basement is all good to go.
Okay, oh, you're just down there.
I didn't know, that's why I was asking.
For cameras downstairs in the basement, yes.
We will start preparing for the election, the March presidential purpose primary in September. That's when we start picking up positions. When you say a short-term solution, we've got to label all these machines, get them assigned to precincts, get them ready to go. That's not something we can do in September. That's got to happen now, when they come.
Or as soon as we can get some space.
So we've got to have some space.
Understood, and I feel like this discussion about space and where people are gonna be landing, again, we're trying to get this
Oh, I understand.
right here.
We're trying to discuss on that other time.
And I feel like that's probably a discussion we can have during budget cycle and understand like what's gonna go where. So, we'd like to maybe hold off on that one. Any other discussion on this, Mr. Isbell?
Just want to make sure we have clarity, so everything that we moved out of the flood, that was prone to that flood area, all that's staying at the TLC building? So I was under the impression we've got another use for that company.
Well, it sounds like that equipment's gonna be decommissioned.
No, I think he's talking about the I think he's talking about the toes.
Well, yeah, we moved totes out of there, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, that was just, you know, in the water.
Well, I think,
And I felt the best place was to get there.
This is again, a broader discussion of like who's going to land where. Like, then that's a bigger thing. We've got the immediate problem with it, which is, we've got these things which have been order and are gonna be delivered here, we need a secure spot for them. And that we gotta do now. This question and the other questions are more about where is your organization ultimately gonna live? And that one, I don't think we're tackling tonight.
I should, I just want to clarify, he was talking about everything I thought, and I said, we're just talking about machines right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave everything over there.
Yes. All right, any other questions? All right. All right.
This motion is leave everything over there, new stuff goes over there, the cameras down in the basement.
And new stuff goes.
New stuff goes down there, and the cameras.
That's right.
And all the stuff stays over there.
That's right.
And $2,000 appropriation.
Up to $2,000 appropriation.
I don't know how much it costs.
I'll see on it.
All right, up to 3,000, well, that's,
I'll see what the specs are and spend as little as possible.
Now, if we waive the second reading, the resolution's supposed to say why, so we'll go ahead and say why you're waiving the second reading.
yeah, we'll raise it, well, wait a second, reading.
Recommend to about that.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just trying to get...
Yeah, I understand, and I have, we'll have a discussion with Mr. Wynn about why I'm not answering the question here after the call, or after the meeting, or after it's open. I mean, I can give you an explanation why that is.
However you want to handle it, I don't know,
Mr. Wynn, last time you had a question here, you asked Mr. Long a series of questions, and you took snippets of it and put it out on social media out of context. And so a big part of the reason why we're here and we're having this tension is because individuals on various sides are enjoying putting things on social media and contacting media, threatening lawsuits and bringing lawsuits. And so I'm no longer going to allow this body to be abused, to take things out of context in order to put them into social media and weaponize them against this body. And that's why I'm not answering the question. I'll reevaluate that in 90 days. We have a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor. Second. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No. Can I ask one point of clarification, just to make sure, because somebody discussed it, that's put the new machines downstairs, I think it's yours, and go ahead and get the camera system ready.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right. Okay.
Yes.
One thing, if we have any singing voice according to the rules, there's no appropriation.
Well, so we can't, we can't waive the second reading, so we can't get the cameras down in there.
I couldn't hear what
We have a,
According to our rules, a couple of things, if you waive the second reading, and that's the resolution we looked at, requires a full majority. You have to give an explanation of why, and it also cannot be on the consent agenda of the county commission.
Let's, if I may, recommendation, let's split apart the votes and have a second vote for the cameras.
okay.
So I'll make a motion to
Can you reconsider? Can he reconsider?
All right, second.
What's the amended motion?
What's the amended motion?
So you're saying you want to split my original motion to put it in the basement. He had an amendment to that motion to add the cameras up to $3,000.
That's right.
You want to basically make two separate motions.
Correct. So take my amendment out.
Okay, so I will move, my new motion will be just to move it to the basement.
Correct. Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to spend up to $5,000 on video camera for downstairs.
Second.
And waive the second reading.
Or the urgency of the need.
For the urgency.
I second that with all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent.
So, in other words, I know that we can get the machines delivered downstairs and start with the camera.
Okay. Moving on with business. Mr. Long, education pending approval, budget amendments in this can copy.
Those are, the first one is just for information only, and the second one's that one for your...
The second one, told you,
that was like that, put it back into old business, the education committee, there's no action paperwork, we did not know what in the world they put it in there for. They gave us an email, said the board approved it, but they didn't say whether we were to approve it, or it was just information only, so we put back in our business so that they would tell us what to do. Hopefully somebody from the school board will show up next time. That's been an ongoing problem, hasn't it?
What was the,
The copy.
So item one is information only. So
Yeah, that one you might say that that's all federal funds.
So, do we need to do anything with this?
The budget amendments, no, the can copier.
Well, no, they can't copy it.
That one right there is on business and education.
So you wanna,
Yes,
so your,
that one right there does not need to be
so
there.
your motion is to.
And I specifically said in the education committee, I don't want to see this on the budget committee because it's an old business on the education committee that time.
So, I guess we can, well, what's your motion?
To strike.
I'll second. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Sheriff's Office, go ahead, Ms. Warren.
The person's for $1,000 reimbursement is covered in AMI scholarship for a conference they went to. They're just asking to have that amount put back into the budget.
$1,000, sure. So, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
The next item is a $16,000, they need to do a refund for amounts that were overpaid, which I believe they did need $60,000 for refunds as a transfer or an appropriation, but they're asking to increase revenue to do it. I think it's doubtful that we're gonna bring in an extra $16,000 in revenue, so if this was approved, I'd recommend instead of revenues, that the other side come from unassigned fund balances. That's, I think it's doubtful that we're gonna bring in an extra 16.
All right, so, well, we need a motion.
He's probably gonna ask what I'm gonna ask.
Basically, what happens is they get payments EMS does from various providers. If two insurances pay, or it's written down or whatever, they have to refund the amount back to the original paid, which is, I understand, it does flow through the revenues, and that's why they want to increase the revenues. However, when I look at the revenue trend this year and last year, it's doubtful they're gonna meet their budget unless it's an additional 16. So I think they do need the money for the refunds, but I think it'd be more appropriate for it to come from unassigned fund balance or a budgetary transfer either one.
You need a motion to do that, basically.
Basically, remove the revenue side, just take the 16 from unassigned.
Okay. Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's the first reading.
Unanimous, so, I'll make a motion to waive the first reading. Another motion.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passed unanimously, all right. CPR devices.
That's when he's requesting for ARPA, we qualify for the.
Yeah, I think that's what So,
That's next one.
Because we skipped over the highway one,
yeah,
too.
we should.
So we're gonna move that into the.
We're gonna move that into the ARPA bucket.
The next one is mental health, evaluations that have been evaluated, and we do have to pay it.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Wait a second reading?
Yes.
Health emergency.
Can I request a second consideration of the CPR devices?
Sure.
Mr. Baggert asked a great question when he was doing his public comment earlier. Just like the analogy, if you buy your groceries at the food line, your pantry is stocked, the food line goes out of business, they don't call you and say they're going out of business. You don't have to go back to the food line until your pantry's dry. So the company that built our existing CPR devices has gone out of business. We purchased those vans from a third-party vendor where we have our contract by our EMS department. So now that that company has shut down, we can't even get those. This is a life safety issue. We do not have enough to
make it through the end of the month. So in an ambulance, you've got 2 paramedics, or 1 paramedic and 1 EMT. One person's driving, 1 person's in the back. These machines allow us to perform CPR. They do the CPR compressions for us, so the paramedic can intubate, they can ventilate, they can give emergency resuscitative drugs. It's impossible to do all of that and do compressions while going down the road and hanging onto the bar so you don't fall down. So David and I started working on this in early December. We had received a HRSA grant, and we were going to try to use the funds for that. It had already been earmarked for revenue shortfall, and the timeline had arose, so we were trying to get information. The amount that you have, the 290, is wrong. It's 279. We've got the quote here, we've got the sole source letter. But I'm just concerned that we do not have past February, or it won't make it that long if we have a rash or cardiac arrest, and we may have 3 or 4 in one day. These are very much an emergent need. I'm not saying that anybody else on the agenda isn't. This is a life safety issue without these devices, and people are going to die.
Since there are quick note to that, again, we're talking about 2 weeks difference ultimately, I think. We're talking March 1st. Mayor, if you were to appropriate this now versus doing it one more cycle, I mean,
The 23rd is this month versus about month.
You said we're going to have a problem by the end of the month. Like, you could get these by the end of the month anyway.
Yeah, if we ordered them now, they said they could have probably half of them by the end of the week and full shipments with us in 2 weeks.
Why is this only coming to us now?
I explained that when it came to fruition to us that it was happening, I came to David Lawing first in early December to see if we could use the other funding that we already had. It was the HRSA, which is the Medicare grant, we're the only recipient for that. And by the time we realized that, yes, we've got this emergent need, it had a cutoff from when you could use that fund. So it was earmarked for revenue shortfall, so we got an additional $432,000 to go towards revenue shortfall that we couldn't use for this.
It would have had to be ordered already.
We need a motion before you say this, because I don't want to continue to be out of order.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, go ahead.
So, the full commission meets 2 weeks from time. So, you wouldn't be able to order these until...
The 24th. 27th. Is it 23rd? It's only on the 27th.
Yeah, it's only going to work until the 28th.
Probably 28th.
So I guess what I'm asking, or trying to, or about to ask, is there any funding that you can use ahead of waiting till the 28th?
But it's a fine thing to be appropriated.
But I mean,
Still got to do 2
it
weeks.
doesn't...
I think the thing, what Greg's trying to get across is it's urgent, and the sooner the better. I don't think it is, I mean, it has to be done as soon as possible.
I heard the phrase, people are going to die. So, I mean, I hope we're not using phrases like that.
Well, Greg explained to me that there's additional machines that break down, there's no way to fix them, they quit making them, quit repairing. That's where all our level breaks, we're going to get back.
Not only that, the vans that the old ones used to operate, we have, 3 in supply, and someone was explaining that earlier. I apologize, I wasn't able to hear everything because we were out in the hall doing the crowd. But
if anything goes down now, it's not coming back.
yeah, I think we have less than 5 that are operational countywide right now.
Mr. Iverson, please go ahead.
This issue, I really think it's not a great deal of time involved, but it's a matter of life and death, and it's hard to put that in a balance with anything. I would hope that the committee would see fit to maybe do this go ahead and do this, and, I would hate to be responsible for someone's, problem, death, or illness, or whatever. Our ambulances, I think, should be well equipped and ready to go. I would hope the committee would maybe think about that and consider on this one issue. It could be the very day before that it's to arrive, and we're saying it's only 2 weeks, but it could be tomorrow that something comes out. I think every day counts. Just throwing it out there.
So the question, I guess, is, how can you get it faster?
That goes back to my
Special call meeting. I mean, good. Special call.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
To the law director, could you do this under emergency appropriation?
Excuse me, I did not know I had to check on that. I mean, look, we got the EMS director saying that matter of life and death.
Would you guys be willing to temporarily transfer money out of his salary lines over into,
That might be a.
and then when you go to the commission, we reimburse
That's a
it.
good idea.
And we go ahead and order it now, and with the intent it comes out of ARPA.
So.
What do we have in ARPA? Well, I've got another, you've got $3.4 million in ARPA as a building right now, and it's all under ARPA. You could technically transfer that 3.4 down from that building down into these machines right here tonight.
Oh, that's a good idea. Because that's already there.
But then if you order them tomorrow morning, pretty much keep going. As soon as it gets the information.
All right. Oh, we got it. All right. Any other discussion? So the motion on the table is to transfer the 2.290 from the 3.4 that's already.
Well, it's 279.
279.
What if it's say the amount he needs?
That's right.
Up to 290.
You can order immediately.
Right, you can order them tomorrow.
279, 115, 20 on the latest quote with the Salesforce.
Okay. You waive the second reading? All right.
Just set it to 280, that way if we're in any
All right,
shipping.
so motion's on the table with the second reading waived, any further discussion?
Just one, but it's a transfer, so it's 3.4. The one with the maintenance facility.
Let's do it, just get it going.
I have a question. Go ahead. When this came up in emergency services last week, I kind of looked at, like, the devices. I think these are around $13,000, $15,000 a unit. There's some that's like $5,000 a unit. So I'm just curious, like, there's some price differences out there with different products and models. I'm just curious what is, would seem to be the same. So there's ignorant here. I'm trying to understand, like, what model would be. Like, I know with the AEDs that we purchased, so a certain type of the pads, and then, so I'm curious, like, what is the situation here? Those machines were ones like really 3 times the cost of another. It seems to be the same product, so I'm curious, like, where you were going for the upper one.
I think maybe one of the ones that you may have saw at that lower price is the company that went out of business, that we did have. They were definitely below bid.
Okay, so.
Fast. The one that we're looking at is the one that the hospitals are recommending. They use that for continuation of care. If we take a cardiac arrest, we've got to have our machine back. They attach the same like machine to them. It's also the one that's recommended in the American Heart Association guidelines as well. So, and this company realized that the ones that we got, pardon my French, for junk, this company has offered us $32,000 on trade-in for those, which we wouldn't be able to get out of ones.
Come out the old one, trade the old ones for the new. Yes, sir. Any further discussion?
It'll just be a line item transfer.
Okay.
This one doesn't need to go.
So if you guys transfer from that, you won't need to do anything else unless you want to spend that 3.4, so you should be fine.
So this doesn't mean go on to the full commission. So he needs, so we don't have to do anything yet.
Just say,
Do we need to vote on that?
we need to vote to transfer 280 from the...
But you're going to do that?
I do the one, yeah, we can spend it. It's just a line item transfer, big one.
Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna plus that after. But, yeah.
If you want to plus it up on the 27th, and we will do it. Do it to next year's budget, what I think.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, all in favor? Okay.
We're just doing this little line item move, I don't need to worry about emergency.
That's right, I don't have to worry about that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chair, thank you for hearing my question.
Okay, we're on now B4, Health Emergency Services Committee, this is for all elevations.
This is all I received was the actual email. I think the sheriff, circuit court clerk, and several others had request for funding. I don't know the exact needs at this point. I haven't.
So this is one, it's a capital case, which is kind of outside the norm, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Last case we had in Sumner County was 1991.
Got it. Do we have a, yeah, this thing's very reasonable, I spoke with your office. Entertain a motion to approve. So moved. Second. Question here. Go ahead.
Let me know it's not appropriate to ask. So, you don't have to answer it. I think for the increased security, right? Is that better for me to ask you afterwards? I'm just curious, like, for like, when I heard $71,000, is that for like a courtroom, or is that just for?
I'll explain why.
I was just, it's a large amount for something new that we've never seen happen. It's just you're exploring the allocation and stuff.
And all of that, I say after, only to protect the integrity of the judicial process, right? There's information right now that the judge doesn't want out. We don't want to get 3 days into this thing and have a mistrial declared and have to go through this whole process again. So it's not trying to keep anything, it'll all come to public light as soon as it's supposed to.
Somebody have the detail of the expenditures.
Yeah, we have an estimate of expenditures.
Yes, I do for the sheriff's office, and then I think.
Yeah, I do for the clerk's office.
Okay.
For the sheriff's office side of it, I think we whittled it down to $47,040 from the 70 that we initially estimated.
Okay. And then from Mr. Office, ma'am?
I'm at about $135,000. And I've got a breakdown of kind of what I did, what I've done. I hope it's not that much. I've overshot it for sure, because one, we've never done this. And two, I don't want to have to come back to get a trial and be trying to figure out.
I don't know if you have much choice.
I mean, that covers transportation, hotel rooms, food, for 3 weeks.
So $183,000 in total is what we're. All right.
Nobody should say $47,040.
Yes, sir.
Let's say does this have to be done now, or can we wait a second reading? Do you need these funds to release now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, the motion, we have a motion. Would you put in that, wait a second reading?
Yeah.
They just provide us the details afterwards, breakdown.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All right.
I think that, can you tell me who's seconding it?
Commissioner Harrison. Okay, moving on to B5. Mr. Vaughn?
This is
I'll
the
explain this one.
Department of Energy grant we received from the mayor's office for $77,880, and it lists eligible uses. I think the mayor said he can probably go into more details of what they're going to do with the grant exactly.
I'm trying to find it real quick. We do not have any regulatory violations right now. Get something together for you.
But on page 224, it does list the allowed uses.
This is similar to that travel, where we're working out expenses we'll bring to you. Couldn't say too well.
Page 224. I think this is just to apply for it. Based on the notice of intent to issue, which is the application period is in early 2023.
So,
Yeah, this is still a work in progress.
I think you're on approval to apply.
is there a motion on the table?
She needs approval to apply, is that what this is, John? I'll move to it.
You're moving to approve, is there a second?
We didn't have a chance to discuss this one.
Move to defer
Second.
next month.
Well, first one,
But you didn't get a second.
I second your motion. All right, any discussion on, moving further? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is, item C here, this is the resolution request, claim balance account.
Basically, we have checks that are over a year old, we have to go through certain due diligence. After we do the due diligence, if people still want cash and collect the checks, we turn them over to unclaimed property, and after a year, we can claim them back into the county, and if they come back later, we'll still refund it to them. But this is just to allow us to claim this back.
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right, moving on to transfers.
The first is for the highway department, and I think Toby's sick, so he's here tonight.
Make a motion. Approve.
Second. I don't think there was anything. There's no new funds here, right?
These are transfers.
They're all transfers.
Some of it's primary classification. You hire, for instance, more general laborers than truck drivers, and then you have government that's classified. A truck driver, he would be a foreman.
Further discussion, any discussion here on this one? Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we're on payroll. Go ahead, Mr. Long, 2A.
The first one is from the register of deeds office. She had a full-time position. She hired a part-time person and moved money to part-time. She's now wanting to move the money back into the full-time position and start the full-time position. And I don't know if she...
Well, I have somebody that is retiring in June, and so I'm looking to train our part-time, who is now at full-time, and to hire someone. So in order to get that money in there, I have to transfer that $19,000 into full-time to get that person started.
So, I'm just making, we're not adding a new employee. Because one is leaving, you're moving the part-time to the full-time, and then you're replacing the part-time?
We've got two vacant, if you look at it, we had two vacancies. My part-timer, I have moved to the full-time vacancy. So I have another vacancy that only has a small amount of money in there. And so what we're doing is we're moving that money I had transferred from that full-time vacancy to part-time. I'm just moving it back into the full-time position.
Okay, understood. Got a motion, second. Any discussion, questions here? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, general sessions 1.
The next one, the general sessions judge hired an employee that already is working in the county. So that means they'll be eligible for longevity, so they're just asking to transfer $300 to pay the longevity.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, 2 items in the sheriff's office. C1, probably do these separately.
The first one is whether they're wanting to make a guard position into a captain, and we're talking about it.
I'll entertain a motion on that one.
Motion. Second.
All right, motion to approve the second on the board. I do have a question on this one. We have spoken on this item. What I'm understanding here, it's been a while since we've spoken, so please correct me if I'm wrong, that you are, there's no new funds being requested here. You're basically changing the classification as of one officer to a captain.
Correct.
And that would come with a, salary change. An increase. My only question here is, where's that increase coming out of? Are we getting rid of another?
It's coming out of the jail salaries. That's what we put this person.
Okay.
And so it's just a matter of
moving the funds over into that line item.
So you're correct, it's a net zero, right? We're moving them from guard salary to captain salary within the jail. Come next budget year, we'll submit it that it's not in the guard salary, it's in the captain. So if we're not asking for increased funding this year or next budget,
He's talking about the difference.
Yeah, I'm talking about the
The
difference.
difference between what a guard makes to what a...
The guard was making 80,000.
We don't have 2 guards to make.
yes, that's the
Okay, that's the question.
Yes,
sir.
sir.
No money, net. Okay, understood. Second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
The next one is where the sheriff's department, like everybody else, has been hit pretty heavy with inflation. They generally would have enough money in their guards to cover the whole year, but we don't know what's going to happen, so I recommended they cover 2.5 months to see where we're at, and then come back with another transfer or appropriation.
Yeah, it's a big number. Okay, any motion? Second, all right. We spoke on this, you're gonna, I understand, you're gonna run out of food.
That's correct. We are.
So it's increased 40%. I totally understand. I mean, it is what it is. Everybody's experiencing it. We totally understand. It's crazy.
But they have a note on here too, they're actually making strides to try to bring it back down.
I get it. We're doing everything. Any discussion? In fact, the next budget cycle for boys should be revamped. How much to account for it, right? So where we save money, people want to know why I'm being draconian on stuff. This is why, you know? I understand. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Actually, when do you need this?
We have enough to make it through this month.
Can we amend this motion to waive the second reading?
Which transfers don't need.
Oh, that's right.
It's just appropriations.
You're right. Ag extension, I didn't fully understand this.
The ag extension last year submitted their budget late in the second year, so the committee came back, and they didn't give them any increases except for the salary survey for the county employee. Their comments was to the ag extension, they could move the money to wherever they needed to make up for wages and stuff, the norm what everybody else got. They were just getting additional funding, and the ag extension, that's what we're discussing. But what they're asking right now is just to transfer funds between their line items, to make it work as they were instructed several months back.
Is there a question?
Let's hear it, if we have questions.
Oh, got it.
They're here if you have questions. Basically, looking at the sheet versus giving you a whole bunch of transfers, I just put what the original budget was, what it's revised now. There's a UT invoice from the county employee. Those two together come back to the request, and it will just be transferred between all those line items, and they can see it. Because there's one employee that's paid locally, and if you call, most of them are invoiced through UT. That's cost share. It's on page 248 of that. Where the same amount the budget started out as 521,288, ends up at 521,288, just to move on.
I'll make a motion.
That's second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. All right, veteran services, I'm tracking this one. Go ahead, Mr. Long, I got your thoughts on this.
This is where the VA officer, the one that was the VA officer, she had a child, decided to stay with the child, so they promoted the assistant to the VA officer, but he's requested this year, in lieu of taking his raise, that he needs help. He's wanting to put 10 of it into part-time and 5,000 of it into overtime versus taking a raise this year and then receive his raise next year for the promotion. And I think I'll leave it right there.
I'll entertain a motion on this one.
So moved.
All right, motion and second, I'm going to speak on this one. We've spoken here, and first off, it is commendable that you gave up your raise in order to try to do a better job of the county, really. My only concern here after speaking, and it's going to be not saying anything out of you're talking about, is I worry that we're building a pipeline for a new employee. I understand the idea here is that
one individual is going to be training, and you're going to be bringing on somebody part-time, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to be bringing on somebody part-time, basically fill that gap while somebody's in training, and then that person would roll off. But conveniently, that kind of aligns with where budget is, and I understand that they're going to be asking for one more part-time person. So it kind of aligns there, and you're trying to do a good job. I understand. But we just saw this, $270,000 needed for additional food. That's the scenario we're in, from a budget point of view. So, look, I think I could vote for this.
If I may, I mean,
Go ahead, sir.
I know you expressed that there, and I also very clearly stated that was not at all the intention.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a big stack of backlog.
I did.
And it takes me 5 to 6 months to develop a new capable services officer.
I think, the bottom line here, I think I'm going to support it. I'm just going to note that the supporting of it is, or at least for me, as I vote, would not, it's going to be very different from what we're looking at when we're actually going to another employee.
Well, the people I'm looking to get for this year are not, they would not likely be the kind of people who I'd try to hire for full, or part-time next year.
Roger that.
Not all bad dreams come true.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Is this going to be a civilian or military or what?
These are all civilian positions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Mr. Warren, this is 5700 from Portland Gallup.
That's the one they were talking about the Gallatin director, and the actual library board has several members here if there's questions on this one, and there's several library transfers for all of them. My understanding is they were all approved by the board, but the board chairs here and right there, if you got any questions.
Is there a motion?
I'm going to move to deny it.
Okay, all right, move, second to deny this. Okay, I would like you to keep your, I had a note after listening to some folks speak earlier. What is the rationale for, is this a promotion for somebody? What's the rationale for the additional funding to that personnel, ma'am? Yes, ma'am.
When the library system was in place, the executive director wanted to appoint 2 of the library directors to be a senior director, to be her assistant. The library system no longer exists. That was solved last week at our board meeting. Did I answer your question?
Not fully.
Okay, what did I miss?
Well, I mean, I understand that the library system was dissolved, and I'm in full agreement with what is going on there. And to be clear for everybody, when we say system, we're talking about the admin, we're not talking about the libraries. There is zero intent that I'm aware of by anybody to defund any library.
Right.
Jackie,
yeah, so but I still don't, I don't still understand what the, so I'm fully in agreement with that, but I don't understand why that necessarily justifies this move. Go ahead, ma'am.
From what I understand, this is when there was a system in place and the executive director, could make those decisions. The director at Portland retired in September. And she was making this money because she had more, she was not really, she didn't get the title senior director, but she had more experience, had been with the system longer. She got that money until her retirement. And then the promise or the verbal agreement, and I was not there, I can't speak to that, was that it would go to the Gallatin director. You're thinking Hendersonville has that designation, and Gallatin is the next biggest, and she had been the director there. So they were trying, and this came along with the salary survey as well, and those divisions.
So is it an equity thing that Hendersonville has a senior director and Gallatin doesn't, and you're trying to bring them up to be?
Now, I wasn't there, this was the executive director's decision, and it was brought to us as it had been promised to her, and it had not been taken care of. And so we voted unanimously at the January meeting to do that based on the information we had at the time.
I can tell you the history of the salary survey.
Okay, go ahead.
They came back and there was a salary survey. Well, initially, because of the amount of management, the library boards were removed from the salary survey. They removed one of their groups of management and brought it back to the budget committee. The budget committee at the time voted to allow them, because the library director said they had more part-time than anybody, and that they needed to do some adjustments for part-time and for promotions and various other things. So at the time, the library or the actual budget committee agreed to allow the executive director at the time to meet with the HR department. At the HR department, the salary survey consultants agreed with what the proposed changes was, and they would bring back to me that it was in the budget, we would make those changes. That was brought back to you guys, I believe, back in October, November, with that it's the same thing involving the salary survey. Of course, they came back with the salary survey, the executive director was not happy with the results because it didn't cover part-time employees, and she asked to make adjustments. And they approved it at the time. I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm still not totally following. Go ahead.
May I ask a question, Director? So, did you say that the director at Gallup claims, and I'm not trying to be negative, but she is saying that she was promised that when the Portland director retired, that she would get her money?
Because from what I understand, the way the job description, there is a senior director job description, and there's just a director job description.
Okay.
And on some of the paperwork that we have, when they're looking at salaries, they do have that Gallatin director listed as senior. It didn't come before us, so there was nothing voted on it.
But she said
that was prior to us dissolving the
Okay, so she says, the current Gallatin director says that she was told that when the Portland director retired, she would get promoted to senior director.
That was our understanding. And it was told to us by all 5 library directors. They were the ones involved in this with the executive director, because that was how
Is there any job responsibility differences, or is it just a longevity?
There may be just a few, because anybody can, somebody pull up those if they needed to, but there are a few. I don't know exactly, as far as the job descriptions go, what it looks like.
So all 5 library directors state the same thing?
And like I say, this was before we dissolved the system, that was, the executive director was the one making those decisions.
I can say that under the salary survey, that the years of service did make a big difference for a director and an executive director. It was made by the size of the library and the number of responsibilities. So the Portland Library should have never been called an executive director position based on the size. So I don't know.
The Gallatin Library.
The Hendersonville's the largest, and then your Gallatin's the next. The Hendersonville and Gallatin on the initial stuff back from the salary survey were on a higher level than the other 3.
So the motion on the floor is to deny this. I'm in favor of it.
Because that is my question, that was my question, is this to bring parity between 2 positions? Hendersonville and one in Gallatin.
But the thing was, this is what they mentioned to me from the library board, is a couple of things. One, they didn't follow the salary survey, and number 2, I was told by several times that the Hendersonville Library has almost as much circulation as, I think, Gallatin and Portland put together. Is that correct?
Hendersonville does over 50% of all of the circulation of all the libraries.
So Late on brought it to me too, that's why I hear some bills probably higher.
I mean, we're getting into,
Basically, you had a salary survey, and then they gave permission for the executive director to change things around, so now it's all in place.
I said, if I was told something, you know, I know that's not our
well, here's the
problem.
thing, like, I mean, we had a big fight earlier
No, I-
about people being told stuff.
I agree with you.
And like, that's, you know, I'm not, and there's no disrespect to anybody here, I'm sure.
I was not there.
No, yeah, I totally
Go
understand.
on one, and I only became chairman in November, so, you know, I can only go on
Yes, ma'am.
what, you know, we were talking about.
We're in the middle of a budget cycle.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
And, you know, my understanding is there's not been anything in writing about this, at all. And no minutes, nothing. It's again, whatever. And so it's a part of a promise about a system that got dissolved additionally as part of that. So, I mean, there's no,
There's no reason we can't go.
well, no, I've heard things that, I would say there's issues that I've heard that are problematical and, performance things all related to this, and I just wouldn't do that anyway. But I just, I'm voting against this one, because we're in the middle of a budget cycle, too, because, there's no record on this, we just got to, talked about this earlier, it's just something that we need to be reevaluated for the budget cycle, it's not as much to talk about, but right now, it wasn't unanimous vote, my understanding was, on that vote, in January library board, so it wasn't unanimous.
Is there any way that we could maybe entertain cutting this number? Say, I understand, and I get the spirit of the motion, I understand.
It's just going to amend.
But if you've got 5 people sitting here saying, or 5 librarians saying, that they all heard the same thing, I would move to amend to cut this to, say, $3,000.
Second.
All right.
For the amendment.
Amendment.
I'm going to just make a note here and that, but there's nothing, we're in the middle of a budget cycle, there's nothing that, it's not like everything.
Just vote on it, we need 4 out of 6 to...
There we go. Any further discussion? All,
It's on the amendment.
On their amendment, which is to make this $3,000. All in favor? No. Any opposed? No. Okay.
Back on the
Fails, back on the main. And the main is?
To deny.
To deny, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, 4 to 2, in favor. And again, I would just note for the record, there's nothing that can't be brought to the next budget, in the next budget cycle. Go ahead, Mr. Wine.
The next one's the other interbudgetary, and the first one's the libraries, 255 through 263, it says pending library board approval. My understanding is per email and talking to the chairman, these all have been approved, and they are just line items to basically clear out the system accounts and to break the libraries back into individual
Motion
libraries.
approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Then the next one's the jail kitchen, we actually bid it on the 9th. And I've actually gonna read you, and I'll read you the bid, and we've actually got sheets here that'll show you the amount of the bid that they're asking to transfer from what line item. The total is, 28,160. They're wanting to transfer from kitchen equipment that has $50,000 in it over to flooring, to floor the jail, which is needed more than the equipment.
Any discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Last group?
The other one's just the other, there's nothing.
All right.
So what,
We're on 3C.
do we have a vote on that?
No, other.
That's just a
Those are the ones that I go ahead and do, and then you guys approve them.
All right.
motion.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Somebody get a approve?
I move the group approve 1, 2, 3.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we open road.
We get four.
And then now we're next quarterly tax item. I know it's getting late. Well,
That's me if you want to defer.
I
can keep the paper.
Can you give us a 30 second? What updates?
Was this, you going to give a presentation of this?
I can go over it again. It seems there's some misunderstanding about it, but I have no problem doing it next month.
Okay.
I think he's okay with it.
I think it's okay.
Motion for
All right, all in favor of deferring?
And what happened to Oak Grove's off?
Oak Grove is,
Motion adjourned.
second. All in favor? Aye. All right.